on the BBC.
Yeah.
So I presume we'll do that from Dublin. Will
I would say
fly
would.
back?
Yeah. No, I would say stay over.
Piece of cake.
Handy.
No problem,
So you could do it no bother.
You can do these shows anywhere, can't you?
You can. Right.
All right, Lee.
Good luck.
Maybe another job will come up for us, who's to say, huh? Yeah. All right, that's Lee Gooch back with you tomorrow morning for his last show of the week. Can you believe Friday again already tomorrow? Okay, let's get Thursday's 9 till noon show underway after we get a news update now from Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Private Sean Rooney is to be honoured today at the United Nations headquarters in New York. A ceremony is taking place as part of a series of events to mark the 75th anniversary of United Nations peacekeeping. Irish Ambassador to the United Nations, Fergal Mython, will receive an award, a medal on behalf of the family of Private Rooney, who died in Lebanon last December. Medals will be awarded posthumously to 103 military, police and civilian peacekeepers who lost their lives serving under the UN flag last year. Donegal County Council is being urged to write to the Department of Housing ahead of the imminent publication of the revised Defective Block Redress Scheme. Councillor Martin McDermott, chair of the Council's Defective Block Redress Committee, is calling for the building condition assessment requirement to be revised. The department recently proposed 11 changes to the draft regulations. One of those requires the homeowner to provide a certificate of planning and building control before progressing with the scheme. Councillor McDermott says that is simply unattainable.
Those searches that you're going looking for will cost a considerable amount of money, and there's no clear answer as to whether that money can be took back or the client can get that money back. So I was asking that regulation be changed and go back to the way it was in the legislation and the way it was in the first draft, and take out the need, because there is no need. I think it's one that does not need to happen. It's going to make life far, far more difficult for homeowners to try to get on the schemes.
A Donegal deputy has said Letterkenny University Hospital is buckling under strain due to years of lack of investment in the northwest. Deputy Thomas Pringle says there are multiple factors that are impacting care at the hospital, including long wait times in the emergency department and the recent sudden resignation of 2 consultant endocrinologists from the hospital. He says it appears the government is moving closer and closer to privatising healthcare.
Unfortunately, I think what the government is actually dealing with is preparing the privatisation of the services. But it's interesting, while Letterkenny Hospital is losing consultants left, right and centre, there's more private hospitals opening up in Letterkenny to facilitate CAT scans and everything else that's required there. So what is actually the programme here? Is the programme to privatisation by stealth?
The Enterprise Minister has defended 3 Fine Gael junior ministers as tension brews among coalition parties. Taoiseach Micheál Martin told a Fianna Fáil parliamentary party meeting last night that junior ministers writing opinion pieces undermines the budgetary process. He was referring to Minister Peter Burke, Jennifer Carroll McNeil and Martin Haydon, who wrote an opinion piece calling for a €1,000 tax break in the next budget. Minister Simon Coveney has defended his colleague, saying the article reflects Fine Gael policy.
Michael McGrath is a good finance minister, highly competent, and he'll put a budget together this year for next year. But that doesn't mean that a party as large as Fine Gael isn't going to have internal debate around how budgets are formed and what priorities are focused on, and that we'll talk to the public about that. That's what politics is about.
Weather now dry today and quite cloudy at times with some occasional sunny spells. Highest temperatures of 15 or 16 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Electric Picnic tickets are sold out. Or are they? Every week in Aldi, be in with a chance to win your weekly shop and Electric Picnic tickets. Just spend €25 or more in Aldi. Take a photo of your receipt and upload it to aldi.ie/electric picnic. Imagine one moment you're strolling through Aldi, the next you're singing your heart out. So pitch up in Aldi to win big. Aldi, every day amazing. 18 plus only. Ends August 20th. Excludes alcohol. Prices and full T's and C's at aldi.ie/electric picnic.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, The 9 till Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning to you. It is 9:05 on this Thursday, the 25th of May. Very welcome along to the 9 till Noon Show here on Highland Radio. It's good to be back with you, and it's good to let you know that the lines are open for you right now. If you want to comment on the items we've got lined up for you to raise your own topics or issues, you know what to do, don't you? WhatsApp or text 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or give us a call on 07491 25,000. Now, if you're outside the Republic, for either of those two contact details, you drop the 00353 and away you go there. You can email us too, comments at highlandradio.com. We love getting your emails from wherever you are. And don't forget, just to remind you, you can watch the programme on the social medias. Charlie, Marie, Elaine already with us, watching on YouTube and Facebook. On YouTube, it's Highland Radio Ireland, your smart TV, Fire Stick, phone or tablet, and the same applies for our Facebook pages as well. Right, Thursday morning, so lots of papers out. A story we'll be covering for you in a little while. The Tyrconnell Tribune have it on their front page. The Carelock of the council, Councillor Liam Blaney, has described potential job losses at Maui, Ireland's salmon processing plant in Fanad, as a major blow for the local economy and the workforce. Some of the workers have been with Maui for many years and depend on it for a livelihood. Staff at the plant were called to a workplace meeting on Friday afternoon to be told about the proposed redundancies. Sources close to the Rinmore plant told the Tribune that the sector immediately affected is in filleting fish, where there are around 35 to 40 jobs since the weekend. The community has been alive with concerns about the number of redundancies involved, and it appears that Maui has not revealed their target figure required to meet their streamlining objectives. Plenty of coverage, as I say, on the front of and inside the Tyrconnell Tribune of that story today. The Donegal News, a leading Donegal doctor and member of the GP subcommittee of the Irish Medical Association, has warned that government plans to expand free GP care will lead to chaos in practices across the county. Dr Dennis McCauley said GP practices in Donegal are already struggling to provide care for patients who are becoming increasingly frustrated at lengthening waiting times for appointments. He said if free GP care is introduced, it will be a disaster for a service that is already struggling to cope. The Democrat this morning, the family of beautiful Jasmine McMonagle have vowed that her memory will live on. Richard Burke was jailed for 14 years for her manslaughter on Monday by Mr Justice Paul Burns at the Central Criminal Court. Jasmine, aged 28, when she was found in a pool of blood in the kitchen of her home at Forest Park, Killygordon, following a 3-hour standoff between Burke and armed Gardaí. Burke, a 32-year-old of Killygordon and formerly Donegal Town, was found not guilty of murdering Miss McMonagle, but guilty of her manslaughter earlier this year. Jacqueline McMonagle, the mother of the devoted mother of two, has told of their world falling apart on January 4th, 2019. The Derry News this morning tells us that in a statement, a spokesperson for the Republican group SIRI said SIRI representatives in Derry have been contacted by a number of concerned parents. They stated this came following a meeting with paid community workers in the Cregan area, where it was revealed that young people between the ages of 13 and 16 have been working as what has been termed juvenile covert human intelligence sources. The statement continued, the revelations came as SIRI representatives have been working with parents and community workers in Cregan in a bid to stop a rise in antisocial behaviour. Having initially met with parents and community workers, concerns were relayed about an increase in drug use amongst young people. Questions were raised as to where these young people were getting the money from to purchase drugs, particularly in such a harsh time of financial crisis. They stated that further meetings were held with the parents, community workers and the young people of concern. Let us have a quick look at the Farmers Journal this morning. A massive price gap has opened up between cattle slaughtered in the north and south in the last 3 weeks. A 380 kilogram U3 bullock slaughtered in Northern Ireland this week is making €2,306, while 2,059 is being paid for the same bullock in Ireland, a gap of 65 cent a kilogram or €247 per head. The UK market, Ireland's main destination for beef, has been going from strength to strength with demand exceeding supply. On to the Nationals, and as you can imagine, all the front pages have a mixture of stories, but they include pictures of Tina Turner, who very sadly has passed away. 1 second here now. I'll talk more about that in a moment. But the main story on the front of the Irish Times is that Meta expects to cut up to 490 jobs from its Irish operation in the latest round of redundancies to hit the social media giant. The anticipated job losses at the company, which owns Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp, would equate to about 18% of roles in its hub in Ireland. They came on top of hundreds of previous job cuts at Meta, as well as losses at other tech giants such as Microsoft and Twitter. And it's no doubt tech companies are using the global situation to reverse the mistakes that they've made in terms of employing too many people. I've noted already some people are starting to panic a little bit if you are planning on going to Dublin Airport because there's no car parking spaces. Let us know if this affects you. 086 60 25,000. I've seen a few posts from people saying that they're looking for lifts or what have you because they've got flights that are outside bus times or aren't convenient to them and there's nowhere to park the car. Well, Dublin Airport Management has warned passengers that there are no more spaces at its car parks for the coming days. Yesterday, the operator said all its short and long-term parking was sold out for much of this week as summer season begins. Separate parking spaces are held for drop-off and collection. The closure of a privately owned car park near the airport that had previously accounted for about 1/5 of total capacity has been blamed for a collapse in availability. Although passenger numbers are now back to pre-COVID levels, 6,200 spaces have been taken out of the system following the sale of the Quick Park facility. These spaces are also unavailable last summer. DAA, which operates the airport, has placed a successful bid to purchase the facility. That move is under review by the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, which must approve the deal. But that's down the line. If you're travelling to Dublin Airport over the next couple of days, there's nowhere to park your car. As I say, does that affect you? What are you doing in order to deal with that situation? Let us know. 086 60 25,000. Now, this is a story that's been a lot of conversation about, not one we've discussed in great detail on this programme. So if you want to get involved in this conversation or to start the conversation or to expand it, let us know. 086 60 25,000, WhatsApps and texts, as you know, or call 07491 25,000. The GAA says it will bring sanctions against those involved in providing any form of competition for players under the age of 12. An email from GEA headquarters at Croke Park to clubs around the country outlines that at under 12 level and under, there is a ban on all competition, blitzes or events that involve knockout stages or the handing out of winners or runners-up medals, trophies, awards or prizes. Now, what do you think about this? I mean, I think we really have to be careful that we don't raise a generation of snowflakes. I can understand about inclusion and what have you, but I mean, is it not good at a certain age to sort of learn about winning and losing and achieving your goals and success and maybe even dealing with a little bit of failure? You know, like if you are on a losing team, is that not an emotion that you need to sort of work on and learn early on? I mean, we're protecting the children, and I get that no one wants to do that more than I, but I just wonder, then at what point do you start educating them about the life that comes at you so bloody quickly, doesn't it? We have so much to deal with, you know, and young people have to deal with everything in life that they do. They have to deal with the stresses and strains that the parents are going through. They have to deal with bereavement sometimes with a granny or granddad or something, you know, and I'm not sure exactly what the logic is. I presume it's to foster an atmosphere of inclusion and everyone is a winner. But at what point do you sort of start educating children that life is not just a bed of roses and that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and you have to deal with it responsibly either way? Anyway, have you any views on it? Reading on here, though, the move is likely to once again stoke the debate over whether there should be facility for competition at a younger age grade than currently exists. As it stands, all football and hurling games played at under 12 level or below are held under the banner of Go Games, which are intended to be non-competitive. This Go Games initiative has been in place for several years and has been part of the GEA's bid to tackle the practice of teams nurturing the best players and neglecting the rest. Again, come on now. Right, what do you think? Get involved in that one. We might put a poll up there on our social medias on that one as well. I think it could be useful to get the public's view on it. As I say, I just have a concern now at this point that we're insulating children to such an extent that what are the consequences for them when they get to the... as I say, the harsh realities of life, which can come at you really quite quickly and early. The Irish Daily Mail this morning, Tánaiste Micheál Martin has criticised Fine Gael ministers over budget kite flying, saying this was not helpful. The Fianna Fáil leader spoke out after 3 Fine Gael ministers wrote an article for the Irish Independent calling for a €1,000 tax break at the next election. Finance Minister Michael McGrath was not informed of the article's publication in advance. The Fianna Fáil TD for Cork South Central told reporters yesterday that he would not be bullied by such public requests. Now, I think also he needs to be careful with his language. That's a very strong word in this day and age with strong connotations. Well, I understand the point he was trying to make, but I think he could have used a different word. But anyway, the move by Fine Gael to publicly engage in budgetary negotiations has raised eyebrows across government. It's unusual, as I say, 6 months out from the budget. Fine Gael are pretty much saying that if there is any break for the squeezed middle, the working families, that their fingerprints and DNA will be all over it. And Fianna Fáil obviously are not going to be too happy about that, because if Fianna Fáil, it's really quite clever if you think about it from a Fine Gael perspective. If Fianna Fáil, their finance minister doesn't deliver that tax break for hard-pressed working families, well, it looks very bad for Fianna Fáil and offers some sort of a separation, you could say, between Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, which is sometimes hard to see. And if they do include it in the budget, well, then you can thank Fine Gael for it, can't you? It's very, very clever, and you can see why it might cause a little bit of, or a lot of, tension in a coalition, because either way, Fine Gael, in coming out early, they either throw Fianna Fáil under the bus if it's not delivered, or they can take the credit if it is. And that's how politics work. That's how public relations work. It's as simple as that. The Star this morning, the search at a reservoir for evidence in the Madeleine McCann case was sparked by information from a very credible source. The tip-off was reportedly made by an informer registered with the German equivalent of the FBI. Officers are reportedly searching for any fragments of Madeleine's pink Amor M&S pyjamas she was wearing when she vanished in May 2007. The search area of the remote site in Portugal is roughly the size of a football pitch. But by early evening yesterday, officers were concentrating their search on a 50 by 50 foot clearing in a wooded area alongside the water. Their search continues today. They did remove some evidence yesterday. What that is, we certainly don't know at this point. If you are a Netflix subscriber and inclined to share your passwords, or maybe someone has your password and you've forgotten, well, then you will have been receiving an email reminder from Netflix telling you, very naughty, don't be doing that. So if your sister or your auntie or your brother down in Cork or Galway or Dublin, or your young one is down at college, it is likely that they might start putting blockers on it because they need more money. Netflix is emailing Irish users, reminding them not to share their accounts with people outside their household. That's the building, effectively, because they can geolocate where it's being watched. The streaming giant said those wanting to pass on their details must pay an extra $4.99. It comes after the company, which has lost subscribers recently, began a crackdown on account sharing last year in countries including Costa Rica and Peru. Now it's Ireland's turn. On Tuesday, Netflix posted a stern statement detailing the tough new policy online. It read, starting today, we'll be sending this email to members who are sharing Netflix outside their household in Ireland. A Netflix account is for use by one household. I got the email. I don't think I share it. I know I don't, actually, in fact. And it's not for any righteous reasons. I just don't... anyone I know who has it themselves. But there you go. If you are sort of sharing it with a relation, or maybe it's your partner who doesn't live with you, or maybe it's a young person down in college in Galway or Dublin or wherever it might be, you might find you're having to stump up an extra $4.99. And as I say, all papers covering the passing of a person described as simply the best, Tina Turner. Music legend Tina Turner, who sold 100 million records in a career spanning 7 decades, has died aged 83. She found fame with abusive husband Ike in the 1960s before becoming a superstar in her own right after her divorce. Mick Jagger said she was truly an enormously talented performer, and she's achieved so much. She came through so much to achieve what she did achieve. achieve. She's a world record holder. She played to the biggest ever paying audience. She was in the Guinness Book of Records. 180,000 people in South America watched her perform. And I think for lots of you listening there, she's been an ever-present in your life. We'll play a track from Tina a little later on in the programme. So we want to know, what is your favourite Tina Turner song? Just text or WhatsApp it. Which song would you like to hear? And the one that's mentioned the most is the one we'll play a little later on in the programme. So what Tina Turner song would you like to hear? And as well, if you have any memories, maybe it was a song that you got married to, or maybe it was a song that was played at an important time of your life. Let us know. Share your stories and tributes, if you wish, to the late, great Tina Turner. 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts. And don't forget to pick your favourite Tina Turner song, and we'll play that out a little later on in the programme. Right, okay. We had this message passed on to us, and I want to read it out here. My auntie had an incident in her car yesterday morning. This was actually the morning before, so that would have been Tuesday. My auntie had an incident in her car on Tuesday morning on her way to Mass. She mistook the corner at the road diversions in Stranraer and ended up giving her wheel a bad bang on the curb, and the tyre began to go flat. The car behind her, which had originally flagged her out of courtesy to go ahead of her, seen what had happened and followed her until she was able to get pulled in. She was quite shook from the bang and realised something had happened, the car, and he took his time to calm her down, offered her to sit in his own car while he changed the wheel for her and got her back on the road. She and we, as her family, was so very grateful for this help and felt it deserved recognition. There are many, many kind people helping others day to day, and we felt it was important to share these positive experiences and how appreciated they are. So fair play to that gentleman. He saw what happened. He followed the lady in her car. When she pulled over, he got her into his car and then changed the wheel for her and sent her on the way and calmed her down as well too, which I think was quite important. So fair play to that person who helped that lady out, and the family got in touch with us just to mention that. And we love messages like that, by the way. Acts of kindness, any positive news, get them into us. And we are more than happy to share them out across the Northwest.
Join us for the Hyundai 232 Celebration Week, May 22nd to 28th. Celebrating Ioniq 6, winner of World Car Design of the Year, World Electric Car of the Year, and overall World Car of the Year 2023. And the Ioniq 5, winner of the same awards in 2022. Visit the Hyundai 232 Celebration Week to order your new Hyundai from our multi-award winning range, including Ireland's best-selling car, the Tucson. Hyundai, a class apart.
The 232 Celebration Week is now on at Divers Hyundai, Canal Road, Letterkenny, until Sunday the 28th.
The world is getting a little more. But maybe more could mean something else. More means more proactive green energy solutions. More means more wind turbines and more recycling. More means more biodiversity and more energy storage. More means more hydrogen and more solar farms, because more clean energy means more efficient living, means more thriving communities, means more energy autonomy. That's why we're more than Mona. Learn more at morethanmona.ie. Ford na Mona.
Raymond Sweeney here to let you know about some great value laptops we now have in stock, like the super affordable Ventura Europa, powered by an Intel Celeron processor, ideal for studying, e-learning, and keeping up to date with the latest news for just $249. Also the super fast Avita Pura laptop with the Ryzen 5 processor, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage for only $399. Check out these and other great value laptops now at Ben Sweeney Euronics in Letterkenny and Dunlow.
Letterkenny Medics are delighted to announce that Mr. Aslam, a renowned and vastly experienced consultant urologist, will be joining the practice on Monday the 22nd of May and is now taking appointments for services that include bladder and testicular cancer surgery, enlarged prostate treatment, vasectomy and hematuria investigations and treatments. With immediate appointments now available, look after your health by booking an appointment today. For more information on all services, go to letterkennymedics.ie or call 074 9202 955. Letterkenny Medics. We listen if you want to talk.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
It's 9:25. Now, the Irish Second Level Students' Union welcomes the recent announcement from the Department of Education and State Examinations Commission regarding the Leaving Cert results date and further adjustments. The ISSU, alongside various bodies in the education and higher education sector, had lobbied heavily for the Leaving Cert results to be moved to an earlier date, as was the case pre-COVID-19. Cassie Lambs, Donegal Regional Officer for the Irish Second Level Students' Union. Cassie, good morning to you. Thanks so much for calling up.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you keeping?
I'm great, thank you.
Right, okay, so your union is welcoming this move, and I suppose an early announcement too ahead. Well, is it ahead of exams? Have the Leaving Cert started yet?
No, they're starting about 2 weeks
Yeah,
now,
so
2 weeks.
it's good to have this information in advance of that, isn't
it? It's great news to hear.
Tell us why this is good news for students from a student's perspective.
Well, from my perspective, it's great news because if you compared, say, last year's date in 2021, their date was September 3rd. That's when they got the results. Pre-COVID, they got the results on August 5th in 2019. But now, thankfully, they'll get the results on August 25th. And this is really helping because if you compare with the CAS, some universities will ask evidence for where's your results and to make accommodations for yourself. And this is not helping students. So now it's great. They'll have the results before September and their universities will be happy enough now.
Yeah, and it gives a bit of breathing space, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Just removes some of that anxiety. And as I say, it's good and fair play to the department to get this news out nice and early because, as I say, it's a stressful time with exams. It's a stressful time, I suppose, if you're heading off to college for the first time. You don't need any extra stresses and anxieties. Is that it?
Exactly.
Also, too, you mentioned accommodation as well. If there's a little bit of certainty as to where you might be going, it hopefully, although it's going to still be difficult to find accommodation, relieve a little bit of pressure in that regard.
Oh, yeah, because, like, say, some students, if you want to go to, for example, Dublin, if you can get accommodation for housing, then you might have to travel up to Dublin maybe every 4 days each week, and that's using public transport and using all that money. That could spend one night in a hotel, for example, but maybe you just can't afford it. And it's great now, but hopefully there might be some accommodations, but the government really needs to look at that in my own perspective.
Yeah, no, I think you're dead right. And what I like about this whole conversation as well is the voice of the student being heard, and it's great to see press releases out and people like yourself being put forward to speak about it, because for too long, and I've said it on this programme many times before, it felt like we were talking about students and not to them and listening to them.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what the ISSU are here to do. We're made by students for students. Like for me, example, I'm here to represent, uplift and defend student voice all across Donegal. That's my job and that's what I'm here to do. And say, for example, in the ISSU have a seat in the Department of Education. We're usually called, like, there can't be any conversations about us without us. That's what we're said and that's what we're told. So now it's great that we are more in part of the Department's education decisions, and it's just great news overall. Yeah,
and again, credit where it is due. The Department of Education seem to be listening to the concerns and following through on them, Cassie.
Yeah, definitely. So overall, the ISSU, we really do welcome the new decision.
All right, brilliant stuff. Okay, before I let you go, I know you're a sports person yourself, and I mentioned just at the start of the show that GEA is warning it will sanction clubs holding competitive games for children under 12. Now, it's like buy one, get one free, right? I bring you in to talk about the changes to the Leaving Cert, but I get this for free, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your view? What is your views now as a young person and also as a sports person?
Well, you see, I've been playing camogie and hurling since I was about 4, and camogie and hurling, they're competitive, and it's the same with Go Games. It's a competitive sport. It's a great sport, and it's just hard to believe that here you won't get a county title in under 12 and then you go to under 14 and you can go for county level and you could win Ulster finals or even get to the All-Ireland final like I did for county, and yet they won't even get the experience of winning a final or anything like that. You know, it's not going to toughen them up and say, here, everyone's a winner, you know, when that's not how it goes. You have to work.
So in a way, what they seem to be trying to do is protect under 12s, but you think it's kind of holding them back because there's certain elements of sport and competition that they're missing out on, and then it comes, I suppose, then right at them as they get to over 12 levels.
Yeah, because for my experience, like, you always will have a good day or you have a bad day. And even with the under 12, I remember I'd come home and I'd be angry with myself and my dad. He's probably my biggest inspiration for camogie and hurling. He's my coach, and, you know, he would always say, you know, you have to keep your head up. Even when I was about 10 or 11, he would say, you're not always going to win, and that's the problem. You're never always going to win, and it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but really it toughens you up and it really brings you into the real world, saying,
yeah, it's part of maturing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, it's really told me, if you want something really badly, you have to keep working hard for it. And if you want to keep winning games, you need to practice. You need to work harder. Yeah. You know, and that's how it goes. That's what I've seen.
One of the arguments, and I won't keep you much longer, Cassie, one of the arguments is that, you know, coaches might, you know, you're a handy player, right? Coaches might go, right, Cassie's got a big future here, and over focus on you, and then other students who might be a little bit weaker or need a little bit more coaching might get left behind. Can you understand that concern? I mean, maybe a different style of coaching would fix that, but not necessarily removing the competitive element from it.
Because if you remove the competitive area of it, say some of the weaker players, how are they going to get motivated maybe to get a bit stronger or to get a bit faster? They're not really going to get motivated without that bit of competition. Because if they see, say myself or something like that, if they see you winning, they might get a bit jealous and they're like, it just clicks.
Drives them on, yeah.
I want to do
and
what
also,
they're doing.
too, in terms of identifying the best players, if the best players aren't sort of experiencing competition and that desire to win, are they going to reach their full potential by the time they come into the under-14s, etc. as well? I would argue not, because they could lose interest and maybe try and seek out that competitive buzz in a different sport.
Yeah, I agree, because like some parents might say it's either you win or you lose, and in some parents be like, oh, everyone's a winner, you know, you just keep doing what you're doing. But really, you need competitive in life. That's how it goes. Life is just competitive for jobs or for college or anything. So you really, it really just says, say for camogie, you do need to have competition.
Yeah, I mean, even when you think, and I get it, because even when you think of an exam, it is a competition.
Oh, it is.
You know what I mean? So even when you start doing your first exams in secondary school, for an example, if you've got a very passive attitude to it, you know, are you going to get the best out of yourselves? But if you've had some, you know, if you understand the importance of sort of that competition and you're competing with yourself effectively, well, then maybe you might do better in the exams. I just don't think it's fully thought through, Cassie. And I think you seem to be of the same view.
Yeah, it's with the exams, like you were saying, like say your friends, you might have a bit of competition with them, and if you're really close, you're like, oh, I want to get higher than you in Irish, or I want to get higher than you in English. Like even school, the world is a competitive place.
And just in the education sector, if someone needs a little bit more attention or assistance, we hope to provide that. Maybe that in the sporting arena, that's the way to do it as well. Exactly. All right, Cassie, listen, it's been really interesting. Thanks very much for coming in and talking to us on both issues. We'll chat to you again, I'm sure. That's Cassie Lamb, Donegal Regional Officer for the Irish Second Level Students Union, 14 years of age, in second year at Loreto Secondary School, Letterkenny. Right, you better get back for the next class.
I better.
Okay, we'll be back with more shortly.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
At F&F, there's 25% off all clothing until Wednesday, 31st of May with your Tesco Club Card or app. That's 25% off your new summer dress collection. Now that's worth popping in for. F&F, fashion at Tesco. Products subject to availability. Available in the majority of larger stores.
Are the signs of aging creeping up on you? Are you not happy with the way you look or feel? At Letterkenny Medics Private Clinic, we're here to help you, offering Botox anti-wrinkle injections, derma fillers, skin bio injections, Botox treatment for grinding and clenching teeth, hyperhidrosis that aids excessive sweating. Let our doctors help bring back your confidence and look after what is important to you. To see what real results really look like, book your immediate appointment with no waiting time at letterkennymedics.ie. Letterkenny Medics, we listen if you want to talk. Planning on renovating your garden this summer? Then look no further than Daleside Garden Furniture. With a full range of sizes and garden sheds, wooden and steel, summer houses, playhouses, outdoor canopies, fencing and much more. Find us on social media. Made to measure and one-off designs are our speciality. Call today on 087 112 4766.
When boating, paddleboarding or jet skiing, you don't plan to have an accident. They happen. When they do, you need to be ready. This is Water Safety Ireland. Always wear a life jacket on water. Safety is one thing you can plan for. For advice, visit watersafety.ie. Better safe than sorry. Supported by the Government of Ireland.
Donegal Tile Centre are celebrating 35 years in business and are holding a massive 3-day sale this Thursday, Friday and Saturday, during which they're offering 35% discount off selected items. Wall tiles are reduced from €16.95 a square yard to €11, with timber effect floor tiles reduced from €22.95 a square yard to €14.90. There's vanity units down from €460 to €299, and freestanding baths reduced from €1,230 to €799. Stock is limited, so don't delay for these genuine bargains. Get along this week to Donegal Tile Centre, Ross Few Business Park, Letterkenny, just off the Polestar roundabout.
Now, I'm pleased to welcome back onto the programme Liam O'Dwyer, International and Migration Advisor with the Red Cross. Good morning to you, Liam. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Greg. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's good to have you back on the programme. Right, now a meeting was held last night for those affected by the Creasla tragedy. What was the purpose of the meeting, Liam?
There were two reasons. The first was to report back to the community as to the level of income that the fund had received and the expenditure, and then what we had spent the money on, and how much we had given to the various groups in terms of the families of the bereaved, people who were injured, people who were made homeless, people who lost their jobs or were out of work for a while, and a whole variety of payments that had been made. And then to discuss with the community the remaining sum of money, which is €236,000. So what we were doing was firstly just accounting for ourselves and for the money, and secondly then looking to consult with the community in relation to the final expenditure, which we want to target at the community itself to meet the needs of the community themselves.
Yeah, such was the public generosity, because so many people were so moved by these awful events. €1.9 million came in, and there are still bits coming in. Up until now, €1.64 million has been paid out. Now, obviously, not getting into the details, specifics of that, because this is in support of private individuals at a very difficult time. But as much as you're comfortable as outlining, Liam, how was that €1.64 million distributed to the benefit of people?
Well, there were the first section was up to Christmas. So up to Christmas, it was very much emergency payments to people to get them over, obviously, the Christmas period, but to immediately compensate for loss of jobs, loss of income, and obviously loss of homes for some people. And then all of the various travel and medical expenses and funeral expenses that were involved. So that was the first tranche, and that was largely led by a number of our members here in Donegal. And then we put a member of staff, Niall Keane, in place. So he was there every week to meet people and to ensure that all the needs were being met. And then the second tranche then, which is what we have been working on for the last 2 months, we set up an advisory committee with a representative from the community and also with an independent financial advisor, and then some of our own leadership and board. And what we designed was a framework to enable us to give what we described as bereavement recognition payments. So to look at the various needs of people who had been bereaved in terms of a loss of a breadwinner, a loss of a child, and all the knock-on effects on a family. So that was done to make certain this was very clear and objective and it was the same for everybody, people who were bereaved and people who were injured. And we met with the families individually, and we discussed that with them, both Niall Keane and me, and we explained that therefore the amount of money that each would be given. And I'd have to say that was very well received. So we have given that money out at this stage. There's probably about 2 or 3 payments yet to come out once we get the bank account details, and then that phase will be ended. So what we're now targeting is very much the community. And that's what the community said to us day one. At the very first meeting, they said, look, you make certain that the families of the bereaved and those who are injured are looked after first, and then come back to us with whatever's left. And so that's what we did last night. To say that, we've obviously 236,000. Some more monies, I'm sure, will come in, and we're looking now to the community to direct us in terms of how best to use those funds.
Yeah, and how, that I would imagine, Liam, is a little bit complicated because, say, for instance, someone might propose something in a particular area that might require planning, or there might be plans for something else in that particular area, and really that's kind of an area that Red Cross is not going to get involved in. It's about sort of, distributing this money with the agreement and the satisfaction of all of those who attended that meeting for last night. So it's not necessarily, it's not overly complicated either, but it's not necessarily either completely plain sailing, I would imagine.
No, and we're also conscious, to be very fair, the local authority, and we are in touch with them. The local authority are together making plans with the community for, I suspect, more infrastructural areas, which would be way beyond us. Our fund is a humanitarian fund, and we want to try and target aspects of the community that you would with the humanitarian fund now. So, for instance, areas like trauma, and having someone available on a more long-term basis within the community to provide trauma support. The HSE are obviously providing counselling, but this would be someone who is there to do a lot more than that, to do training within the community, as well as working with various community groups, as well as individuals. And then we looked at other ideas, such as the various activities we might support from a youth perspective. I think at the very first meeting, again, there was a real focus on youth. We want to be sure that our young people are going to be okay after this. So we looked at various aspects, working with Feroiga, working with the local GAA and the other sports and social clubs, and the schools, obviously, who would play a leading role. So they were some of the areas. And I suppose what's now agreed is that the community association will take those areas that they initially identified and that we have added to. They will have their own facilitation meeting within the community, and then we will meet together at the end of June to decide on the best approach.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, just to get a sense of what you're saying and maybe the move from the meeting, obviously this is all incredibly still very, very recent and still people very much in the grieving process and will continue so for a long time. But I get the impression that there was a focus on the future as well, and protecting and sort of embracing the young and building the future of Creasler through them. Is that kind of the sentiment that was there?
Yeah, that's what was there. I think there was a recognition that infrastructural work with the local authority will materialise in time. So this was more focused on the future. I know we certainly discussed areas like educational bursaries. We discussed the use of the playground, because there's a wonderful, wonderful playground there in Creasler. And then supporting facilities for younger people, not so much facilities, activities, I should say, for younger people. But the trauma piece, I think, is important, because having somebody there within Creasler, and we would have noticed it with having a member of staff there, because once someone is there, they can pick up the needs very, very quickly, and the mood. So this is to put somebody then in place from a trauma perspective who could offer support in that area over a longer period, and again have them associated with the community association.
And Liam, obviously, some of the stuff that will be put in, as you just mentioned, the trauma person and activities and what have you for the young people, that will continue into the medium to long term. But in terms of the Red Cross's role in this at this point, I'm not sure how it normally works. Do you have an exit date in terms of, making decisions for this €236,000 and then, taking a step back? Or how does that process work normally, Liam?
Well, I suppose we would take a step back certainly from the perspective that we have a member of staff who has been down for 1 or 2 days every week for the last number of months. But we have members here who are very active in the community, and they won't be going anywhere, and they will be working very closely with the community. So there is no sense of the Red Cross walking away. I think what the Red Cross would like to do at the same time is make certain that the money that it has been given has been spent, or at a minimum allocated, so that we're not dealing with the money issue anymore. It's more we're dealing with how to enable the community to move on from that awful tragedy.
And of course, finally, Liam, dealing with lots of people that deal with things themselves in very different ways. Are you as happy as you can be, that particularly in dealing with those bereaved or injured, that they'll be satisfied with the engagements of the Red Cross now?
Greg, it's hard to comment on that. Certainly all the feedback we have received has been very positive, and that doesn't mean that everybody is satisfied. No, that simply is not, and you couldn't meet every single need. But I think generally people are satisfied that we've thought it through, we've put a framework in place, and I think having both a number of our volunteers available, and in particular having a member of staff whom I think people were delighted with, that was there on a weekly basis, I think has made a great difference.
Okay, and we appreciate your making yourself available so soon after that meeting and giving us those details, Liam. Thanks very much for your time. I do appreciate it. Okay, that's Liam O'Dwyer, International and Migration Advisor with the Red Cross. That's off the back of that meeting last night with the community in Creasle and people affected by the Creasle tragedy. And there are some, obviously, from outside the community. And that's just outlining how that money has been distributed with respect to not getting into the intimate details, because that might reveal private information as it relates to those who were most directly affected by it.
Summer is here, and so is the hottest sale of the year at Easy Living Furniture. Get ready to transform your home with incredible deals during our sizzling summer sale. With absolutely everything reduced, why not spruce up your living room with a stylish sofa? Create the perfect dining experience with our stunning collection of dining sets, and relax in comfort with our cozy bedroom furniture. The spectacular summer sale is now on at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park.
Planning on renovating your garden this summer? Then look no further than Dealside Garden Furniture. With a full range of sizes in garden sheds, summer houses, playhouses, outdoor canopies, fencing and much more. Dealside Garden Furniture Lifford. Made to measure and one-off designs are our speciality. Find us on social media.
Itchy eyes, running nose, wheezy and mean hay fever is back on the attack. As pharmacists, Brennan's have a wide range of allergy remedies to come to your rescue, and we can advise you on how to lessen those hay fever attacks. So come in for a chat and we can talk through your options, in private if you like. You'll be back to enjoying summer in no time. For expert hay fever advice you can trust without the wait, we're always here for you. Just ask at your local Brennan's pharmacy.
Check out these special offers at Simpson Supermarket, Glencar, Letterkenny. There's Nicky Toilet Roll 9-pack, €3. Lucasade Sport 4-pack, €3. Kellogg's Cornflakes 720 gram, €2.50. And there's Surf Tropical 80 Wash, now €10. At Simpson Supermarket, Glencar, Letterkenny. While there, check out Peggy's Kitchen Cafe for great food, tea and coffee. Only 2 minutes from Letterkenny Hospital. Simpson Supermarket, for great value every day.
Sleek, smooth, safe, modern. Oh, you want to hear more?
Do you want to drive the most modern car in Donegal? There's a reason why it's our county's favourite car. The brand new diesel Kia Sportage, the multi-award-winning SUV, is available at iMotors now. Our team will take care of all of your needs. Visit imotors.ie or call in to us today, because how you feel when you drive is important to us.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the programme now. Comments coming in directly towards the end of and after our interview there with Liam. A caller says, I was a very close member of a family that was killed in Creeslough, and I have not received a penny from the Red Cross, and yet family members have. Can he explain why? Now, we'll try and deal with that off air, because, as I say, I only got that after the interview had concluded, but we can try and get some clarity for you off air, if that's okay. Another, can he clarify how only certain members of families were given care while others were not? I just couldn't face going to those meetings, and I know that is the difficulty, and it's one I can't involve myself in it, and I have to be careful and sensitive, but I do know that for some it was too difficult to actually attend the meetings in Creeslough, and I'm not really quite sure, and it's not for me to say, I'm not really quite sure how that was dealt with, but in this listener's view, they couldn't face going to the meetings and are looking for clarity as to how only certain members of families were given care while others were not. Hi, Greg. They say, right, I'll come back to that because I don't want to jump from such a serious issue to comments on other things. But we are moving on to a story that is broken on the front of the Tyrconnell Tribune today. Grab the paper, extensive coverage on the front of it and inside it on this story. Maui released a press release saying it's with great regret that Maui Ireland, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, has announced that it's begun a programme of consultation with staff regarding a reduction in employee numbers. Following a global review, a decision has been reached to streamline a number of processing plants which are under capacity. This will result in secondary fish processing ceasing in Ireland by October 2023, leading to a number of redundancies at the company's Rinmore base in Fanad. The 30-day consultation programme begins on Friday, May 19th. The consultation exercise will be used to establish if staff who currently work in secondary production can be deployed elsewhere within the company's Donegal headquarters. Until this engagement is concluded, the company cannot provide a figure as to the final number of redundancies. Maui Ireland intends to grow other aspects of operations in Ireland later in the year, and the overall business outlook remains positive and healthy. Maui Ireland would like to put on record its gratitude to all its staff for their exemplary commitment to the company and intends to provide every support possible through the consultation process. Councillor Liam Blaney is Cohearloch of Donegal County Council and a local rep there as well. Of course, Liam, thanks for taking the call this morning.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, so this is going to have, if it's followed through on, and the sort of tone of that press release suggests this is going to affect an awful lot of individuals and their families in the area, it seems.
Well, first of all, it's devastating news for the area and for the surrounding areas as well. There's a lot of people employed by Moy. But when we hear them saying that they want to deploy some of them and other parts of the business, and with voluntary redundancies, hopefully there won't be too many, if any, that will be displaced from being employed there.
Do you think that...
And I did...
Go ahead, Liam, sorry.
I did make contact with Minister McConlogue, who's the Minister from Marine, and I'm hoping to get a meeting with himself and Moy in the very near future to make sure that everything can be done as far as he's concerned as Minister from Marine to try and secure the rest of the jobs that are there, because it's very, very important to the whole area, the Fanad Peninsula, and as I said, to the surrounding areas, that the main employer in Fanad's the main employer nearly from Fanad to Letterkenny, and I think it's important that what can be secured there will be secured, and that the people that are working there would be made aware of that as soon as possible.
Can you read between the lines a little bit in their press release and their plans? Like, what is happening in the industry that has led to them making these cuts as far as you can determine? Is it clear to you?
Well, there's a lot of speculation, Greg, and there is speculation that maybe there's a plant for processing startup in Scotland. It was supposed to take a number of years for it to get there, and a lot of questions coming from Scotland to the final plant. As I say, a lot of speculation, and I'm not going to go into further until how we meet them up and then they better understand what the problems are in there.
In terms of other employment options for those that might lose their jobs, is there anything can be done, maybe through the Department of Marine or other agencies of the government to find alternative work for anyone that might find themselves losing their jobs, that maybe a move or voluntary redundancy doesn't suit them?
Yeah, well, hopefully they will be able to apply most of it, not them all. It doesn't go for voluntary redundancy, but I'm saying that, yourself, you're well aware of this area. And to get employment of any kind is very difficult. But I suppose one option may be, because of all the extra housing that's going to be coming on board in the very near future, that there could be extra jobs in construction, but many of them people will be the skills for the construction industry, I don't know. Yeah, and many people working here, Liam, would have been working here for a long time, wouldn't they? They'd be of their working life would have been at Mowi. It would have been. That's there nearly as long as I can remember. Well over 40 years, anyway. I can't say exactly when I started, but I was definitely well over 40 years in the area. And I've employed a lot of people down the years. Yeah, because as you sort of said in the future. Sorry, Liam, as you said in your conversation with John as well, there aren't an awful lot of alternatives. You've talked about maybe construction being an option for some, but in rural areas with few job opportunities, we don't want to see any further depopulation, do we? You know what I mean? You want as many people to stay around, stick around and be employed in the local area as possible, because then it starts having impacts on other areas of local life. Massive impacts on other businesses and the area too. And as you say, the rural areas, the population declining all the time in them. And some instances has been forced on them by planning regulations and things like that. But if we can keep jobs in the area, at least there's some chance of keeping the people in the area as well. It's getting more difficult in the rural areas to try and keep people there. Yeah. To try and keep that employment there for them. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well listen, thanks for your time this morning and an update there. That is Councillor Liam Blaney Cahirlock of Donegal County Council there, and that consultation period is ongoing, and hopefully we'll get more information once that has concluded. And it's a tough old time when there's question marks over your employment, and all those people too have many of them have families, of course, and bills to pay and what have you. So anyone who has an insight into the process that's ongoing there, by the way, if you're an employee and you want to speak to us off the record or give us an insight into it, please get in touch with us in confidence to 086 60 25,000 WhatsApp or text, or give us a call on 07491 25,000. Okay, you tuned to Thursday's 9 till noon show, and can you believe we're already an hour into it? We've got so much to get in over the next 2 hours. So what we'll do is we'll take a quick break for the news and the obituary notices. Please stay right where you are. We want to maintain your company after this break.
Are you tired of the daily grind of commuting to work? Long for the flexibility and freedom of remote working? Then G-Tech Digital Hub, Termon and Carrigart may be the perfect solution. Join G-Tech Digital Hub today and start living and working on your own terms. Find us on Facebook.
Charge into summer with TUI. Secure your holiday today with savings for families and adults flying from Dublin, Cork and Shannon. Holiday sorted. TUI. Live happy.
Why leave all the magic moments or great scenes you've captured on your phone sitting there or in the cloud when you can have them printed at McGee's Chemist? Using the McGee's app or one of the in-store kiosks, you can upload your photos from your phone, Google Photos, Facebook or Instagram and have them printed instantly within an hour, or in by 10 and ready by 5. See mcgees.ie for more details. Hold your memories in your hand with McGee's Chemist, Letterkenny.
Summer is here, and so is the hottest sale of the year at Easy Living Furniture. Get ready to transform your home with incredible deals during our sizzling summer sale. With absolutely everything reduced, why not spruce up your living room with a stylish sofa? Create the perfect dining experience with our stunning collection of dining sets, and relax in comfort with our cozy bedroom furniture. The spectacular summer sale is now on at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park.
Join us for the Hyundai 232 Celebration Week, May 22nd to 28th. Celebrating Ioniq 6, winner of World Car Design of the Year, World Electric Car of the Year, and overall World Car of the Year 2023. And the Ioniq 5, winner of the same awards in 2022. Visit the Hyundai 232 Celebration Week to order your new Hyundai from our multi-award winning range, including Ireland's best-selling car, the Tucson. Hyundai, a class apart.
The 232 Celebration Week is now on at Divers Hyundai, Canal Road, Letterkenny, until Sunday the 28th.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. Malway has confirmed that job cuts are on the way at its Rinmore base in Fannet. The company says the decision has been taken following a global review to streamline processing plants which are under capacity, with secondary fish processing set to cease in Ireland in October. In a statement, Malway says as a result a number of staff will be made redundant in Donegal. A consultation process has commenced with a view towards redeploying staff elsewhere within the company. Cahirlock of Donegal County Council, Councillor Liam Blaney, says it's important that every effort is made to retain as many roles as possible.
The whole area, the Fannet Peninsula, and as I said, the surrounding areas, at the main employer in Fannet, and the main employer nearly from Fannet to Letterkenny. And I think it's important that what can be secured there will be secured, and that the people that are working there would be made aware of that as soon as possible.
Private Sean Rooney is to be honoured today at the United Nations headquarters in New York. A ceremony is taking place as part of a series of events to mark the 75th anniversary of United Nations peacekeeping. Irish Ambassador to the United Nations, Fergal Mytham, will receive a medal on behalf of the family of Private Rooney, who died in Lebanon last December. Medals will be awarded posthumously to 103 military, police and civilian peacekeepers who lost their lives serving under the UN flag last year. The surplus of the Red Cross's Creaslough Fund will go towards providing trauma support. A meeting took place in the town last night to discuss what the €236,000 remainder will go towards. To date, €1.4 million of the fund has been spent on compensation for job loss, income and homes to cover travel, medical and funeral expenses, as well as bereavement recognition payments. Liam O'Dwyer, International and Migration Advisor with the Red Cross, told the 9 till Noon show this morning that their focus is on providing support for those affected into the future.
We want to try and target aspects of the community that you would with the humanitarian fund now. So, for instance, areas like trauma, having someone available on a more long-term basis within the community to provide trauma support. The HSE are obviously providing counselling, but this would be someone who is there to do a lot more than that, to do training within the community, as well as working with various community groups, as well as individuals.
Donegal County Council is being urged to write to the Department of Housing ahead of the imminent publication of the revised Defective Block Redress Scheme. Councillor Martin McDermott, chair of the Council's Defective Block Redress Committee, is calling for the building condition assessment requirement to be revised. The department recently proposed 11 changes to the draft regulations. One of those requires the homeowner to provide a certificate of planning and building control before progressing with the scheme. Councillor McDermott says that is simply unattainable.
Those checks that you go looking for will cost a considerable amount of money, and there's no clear answer as to whether that money can be took back or the client can get that money back. So I was asking that regulation be changed and go back to the way it was in the legislation and the way it was in the first draft, and take out the need, because there is no need. I think it's one that does not need to happen. It's going to make life far, far more difficult for homeowners to try to get on the schemes.
Thor TB recommends introducing significant fines for people carrying out illegal evictions. In a response to a request by the Housing Minister, the Residential Tenancies Board has made a number of recommendations to crack down on unfair evictions. They include giving Gardaí the power to arrest without a warrant anyone participating in an illegal eviction. Sinn Féin's housing spokesperson Owen O'Brien says the law needs to be clear on Gardaí's role in evictions.
If the landlord or an estate agent, as again happened in Lucan only last week, is changing the locks unlawfully, the guards can't intervene. And even where a tenant is being physically removed from a property, it's a very, very grey area. And I've spoken to some guards who attended illegal evictions, and they themselves are very conflicted because the law is not helping clarify the situation.
Weather now dry today and quite cloudy at times with some occasional sunny spells. Highest temperatures of 15 or 16 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
The obituary notices this Thursday morning, May 25th. The death has occurred of Vincent Gavigan, Common, Ardra. His remains will repose at McCabe's funeral premises this evening from 6 p.m. until 11 p.m. Funeral from there tomorrow afternoon at 2:40 p.m, going to the Church of the Holy Family, Ardra, for funeral mass at 3 p.m. Funeral premises is private to family only, please. The death has occurred of Owen Martin McGonigal, Ken Valley Crowley, Burton Port. His remains will be reposing in McGlynn's funeral home this evening from 7 p.m, with rosary at 9 p.m, followed by removal going to his late residence. Reposing at his residence tomorrow. Removal and wake are private to family and close friends only, please. Funeral mass on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. at St Columba's Church, Acres, with interment afterwards in Belcrich Cemetery. The death has taken place in Glasgow of Sally O'Neill ní Doherty, Carol Moore, Glentocher, Carndunna. Her remains are reposing at her brother Jerry and wife Joan Doherty's. Removal from there tomorrow morning at 10:15 a.m, going to the Church of the Sacred Heart, Carndunna, for Requiem Mass at 11 a.m, with interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Requiem Mass can be viewed live on churchmedia.tv. The death has taken place of Kathleen Murphy, ní Griffin, Drumnahoe, Letterkenny. Kathleen's remains will repose at her late residence today from 12 noon until 10 p.m, with rosary tonight at 9 o'clock. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:15 a.m, going to St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, for 11 a.m. Requiem Mass, followed by private cremation at Lakelands Crematorium, Cavan. Funeral can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. House private on the morning of the funeral, please. The death has taken place in Glasgow of Rosemary Sheridan, formerly of Creevary Rathmullen. Reposing at her home in Creevary Rathmullen from 3 p.m. until 10 p.m. on Saturday. Funeral from there on Sunday at 12 noon for 12:30 p.m. Requiem Mass in St Joseph's Church, Rathmullen, followed by interment in the adjacent cemetery. Family time on the morning of the funeral, please. The Mass can be viewed on MCN TV, St Joseph's Church, Rathmullen. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Every year, about 2,600 people in Ireland get bowel cancer. Bowel screening helps to reduce your risk of developing it. If you're aged 60 to 69, you can register today for a free bowel screen test kit. Once you've done the test at home, return it by free post and we'll test your sample for levels of blood. If you need any more tests, we'll let you know. Register today at hse.ie/bowel screen or free phone 1-800 45 45 55 from the HSE.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
And you are very welcome back to the programme. Good morning if you've just joined us. It is 9 minutes past 10 on this Thursday, the 25th of May, 2023. Coming up soon, we're going to be having a chat to Senator Eileen Flynn, I suppose, just reflecting on her career. And I suppose balancing that career and family life and dealing with the I suppose, the pressures that come with public office. Any questions or comments? By the way, get involved in that conversation, 086 60 25,000, or give us a call on 07491 25,000. I would like to mention that there's a coffee morning taking place in the Station House at Letterkenny this morning between 11 a.m. and 12 noon. And it's to raise funds for Irish Guide Dogs. So if you wish to get along to that and have a nice cup of coffee and support that, please do. And I also want to mention a tractor run that is coming up. It's in aid of TJ's Wish to Walk on Bank Holiday, Sunday the 4th of June. It's a great day guaranteed. The tractor run starts and finishes at Rosie's Bar. That's in Drumkeen, of course. Registration is from 1:30 p.m. and there's a raffle and refreshments afterwards. So that's a tractor run on that bank holiday Sunday, June 4th. A great day guaranteed, and you will be supporting Little TJ's Wish to Walk. Okay. Right, so that's those two things mentioned. Hi Greg, they say there is no money about. Try and book a hotel any weekend in Ireland and see what you'll pay for a hotel room. It's unreal. There's plenty of money around. Yeah, there is plenty of money, but in any economy like ours, you'll have people who are very well off, people who are poor, very poor, and then you get people in the middle who are sort of ticking along to some extent. So there'll always be people with money. I was chatting to someone not so long ago who was charged and actually paid, believe it or not, €450 for a hotel on the weekend of the rugby final and Katie Taylor's fight. €450. I just couldn't. Someone earlier on, remember we were talking about wine, called me tight. I must be tight. I certainly wouldn't pay that amount of money. Right, okay. I'm going to take this break now, and I'm going to get to your calls and comments coming in as the morning progresses. But we're going to be joined by Senator Eileen Flynn. So stay right where you are. That's all coming up after we have the bingo numbers.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Thursday, the 25th of May, Jackpot Day. You're playing for the jackpot prize of €17,400 on the pink sheet. The reference number is S4. It's game number 21. The jackpot number is number 1. This number can come out in any position from the next 10 numbers drawn. And now, here are your daily numbers. 76. 6, 54, 74, 66, 58, 72, 37, 48, and finally 24. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Shop LK at Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure, Main Street, Letterkenny. New, fresh colours in women's sportswear from Nike and Under Armour. Get that new look with some bright colours. Quarter zips with t-shirts and fitness bottoms. Match it up with some new arrivals in our footwear for women. Brooks, Hoka, and On Running gives you a unique comfort sensation. View our new arrivals. Click on bmcsports.ie for your free delivery.
PDO Thread Lifts, the ultimate non-surgical lift for the skin, improving facial contours, lifting and tightening jowls, the neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic Eudore. For help choosing the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat-dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic Eudore, 07495 325 75.
Spring is here, and so too are the new arrivals at Green Shoes. Shop in store or online now from best-selling brands like Doc Martens, Una Healy and Echo. Also Riker, Kate Appleby, Tommy Bow and many more. Shop LK and One for All gift cards accepted in store. Visit Green Shoes and discover the perfect footwear to complement your style. Green Shoes at Market Square, Letterkenny Shopping Centre, Fulcara and online at greenshoes.com.
Looking for the best place in the Northwest to get a bed or mattress? Restex Beds and Mountaintop Letterkenny has a great selection and great prices. Restex Beds has everything you need for a good night's sleep. Visit them today and sleep better tonight.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the programme. It is the 9 till noon show here in Highland Radio. Hi, Greg. I work as a home help support in Letterkenny. Just wanting to give a big shout out to a group of people, non-Irish they say, who I see every Sunday morning doing litter clean-up in the Old Town and O'Donnell Park area. They do a great job, worth acknowledging. Thank you. No problem. Non-competitive games for all sports is always the way forward. The streamlining of children on ability that is judged by so-called elite coaches should not be acceptable. Every child develops at different ages, and the biggest example is the 11 plus. Sport is for enjoyment, and in a lot of cases the least talented of your children go on to be the best volunteers within any sport club. The elite players never seem to come back and help their former clubs, maybe the case being they've lost the love of the sport. Always remember, children are the most important part of any sports club. As Bruce Springsteen says, nobody wins unless everyone wins. Okay, let's see if I can say hello now to our next guest, and that is Senator Eileen Flynn. Hello, Senator, can you hear me?
Hi, Greg, how are you?
I'm good. It's good to have you on the show. How are you keeping?
I'm really good. Sorry, I'm just moving from one place to another. Just a committee. Really good. Thanks for having me on the show this morning to speak about being in politics and being a mother as well.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you on. And you settle yourself there, Eileen, obviously in a busy environment, and we'll just wait for that mobile signal to settle there. All right, let's see what our connection's like. Okay, so Eileen, tell us a little bit about yourself, as much as you're comfortable to talk to us about just your life maybe before politics.
Yes, before politics, I was living in Ballyfermot before I got married as well, obviously. I was always an activist and well involved in human rights and equality in Ireland, and involved in many campaigns. So that was really my life before I moved to Donegal and got involved in politics. And when I got involved in Billy, my oldest little girl, was 5 months old when I campaigned to and lobbied for the seat that I have now. And I got in when she was 9 months old, actually. And it's just been, sometimes it gets very overwhelming because, you know, you're trying to balance out the home life with the political life as well. And I am a full-time mother, but unfortunately, I only get to spend half the week with me kids and the other half then in work. So I stay in Donegal 4 nights a week and in Dublin 3 nights a week. And actually this is a really tough week because I'm in Cork tomorrow speaking about women in an election. And I think there's many barriers that face women in general, and even women without kids obviously entering into politics. But from my own experience as a mother, again, overwhelming, you know, like you feel a lot of your time feeling sorry that you can't be there with your kids, and then you do look at the brighter future that you're trying to make for your children too. But that doesn't mean that it's easy now. I know for Lacey and Billy, when I left Monday evening, actually, because Lacey's getting a little bit older now, she's a year and a half, and the two of them just sobbed, crying, you know, and that's really tough because, again, you feel that you're only there half the time with them, and you don't want your kids to be feeling rejected, you don't want your kids to be feeling abandoned either, you know. So for me personally, I don't know what it's like for other women. That's where I'm at. And then
I presume it's I presume it's a constant emotional battle in that, you know, you have that maternal pull, right? But then you sort of try and make yourself feel a bit better, as we all have to, because you sort of say, well, I have to also look at the bigger picture. But I presume one emotion is always competing with the other. You don't leave on a Monday and then everything's all right till you get back. I mean, it's a tough one. None of us like to leave our children for any extended period of time.
And then I do think there's different roles that men and women take on in the house as well. You know, like when I go home on the Thursday, it's the cleaning, it's the washing, it's the preparing for the following week ahead, making sure there's food. And while men are brilliant and try their very best, you know, I think a lot of it is left to women really to make sure that everything is done. So
well, listen, we could be getting into dangerous territory here, so we'll be careful, Eileen. But there is no way, there's no doubt. In most cases, there's a man cleaned house, and then sometimes the other half can come around and do the proper job. I think a lot of people out there might sort of relate to that.
Yeah, to be fair to Liam, I often walked in on a wet floor on a Thursday evening, and it's brilliant. He's really good. To be fair to him, what I will say, from even talking to other politicians when they did it, going back when their kids were younger, it would be similar experience. And it's the same for women who are nurses, who are doctors, who are in professions as well. That 8 to 8 job, or the job having to leave the kids, like you still have the chores that other women, a lot of women would do anyway. And again, I just find it, as you said, emotionally tough. You have I know in my case, I organised the childcare, I organised that, and again, I know Liam could do it if I wasn't there, but sometimes we put that pressure on ourselves as well.
Mm-hmm. And listen, I mean, obviously, and I hate to use sort of particular terms that separate us all out, but I have to sort of, for the purpose of this question, often, and we'll get to it, but often when we might speak to you or we hear from you, you're advocating for the traveller community, and it might be the treatment from the settled community towards you or the traveller community, and then we get sort of then that argument that happens within it. But I'm just curious as to how you feel that you're perceived by the traveller community. You know what I mean? Because your life is very different to that of what people might perceive to be, if you know what I mean, in terms of working in politics is what I'm saying. You've moved out of Dublin and spent much of your time in Donegal. So how are you, or do you have a sense of how you're viewed by fellow members of the traveller community?
Okay. You have 200 members in Leinster House, and I'm the only one that's a member of the traveller community. And for the other 200, over the other 200, they get to share out the responsibility. They're not all held accountable for the actions of settled people. And in my case, I'm held accountable for over 40,000 people. And I also have to be very realistic that travellers have that are interested in politics and have their own views and the political system and in politics in general. And obviously I don't speak for every single member of the community. To be fair to Donegal travellers and to the likes of David Friel, Hugh and Anne, they're really good support in Donegal at a national level as well. And I have great support from traveller activists at a national level. But I will say, Greg, I do an awful lot of work with the traveller community, with people with disabilities, try my best with in Donegal and Ardra, where I live as well, migrants and refugees also. And really, sometimes it can get very much because you're trying to tackle as many issues as you can in any week or in any day that presents,
Yeah, and as you mentioned, as the sort of sole, I mean, mothers might say that they've made representations, but as the sort of what would be seen as the sole voice of the traveller community in the Oireachtas, it's difficult when you raise an issue, specifically if it's a traveller-specific issue, because then you have the whataboutery that begins, okay? And it's really so. In other words, you recently talked about your experience of trying to get a taxi to a halting site, and then it's like, yeah, but what about what might have happened to that taxi driver in the past, or what about pizza delivery companies not going into them, or what about the time I drove past one and something happened? Do you ever feel that you are going to struggle to make progress, because it's almost, you're like a lightning rod for anti-traveller sentiment to some extent? So when you speak up trying to benefit the community, it almost actually brings more anti-traveller sentiment out. Do you get where I'm coming from? I wouldn't like to find myself in that position, because I'd be afraid to speak.
But you can be targeted because of what you're trying to do as well. Like I remember a few months ago, I said things were getting worse for refugees, and people came after me. It wasn't because of my language or the word I used. It was really because of the issue. And they were saying that Worcester isn't in the English dictionary, you know, and that's fine with me. But I got attacked because of using that word, and I think many politicians get attacked for their political views, whatever. But for me, it's always will be live and let live, no matter what your gender is, your community is, your way of life. Once you're not hurting another human being, and to a certain extent, like, I don't care. I don't go around thinking all day, about trans people. I don't go around thinking all day about people, black and brown people, people of colour. Do you know? I want to get up and live my life as well, but I don't want anyone to hurt people because of their identity. And maybe that's because I know how it feels to be hurted, to be rejected because of my identity, because of who I am as a person. So you do have all those layers. Like, I'm nearly 3 years into Shannon, and if I sat on my hands for 3 years and did absolutely nothing, I was to change. I made change. I'm part of the change. But, I'm a very active person, politician. And as I said, I try my best. At the moment, I'm working with Sync, and I get every local authority park in the country to have swings and facilities for children of special needs. In Ardram, my own community, I'm trying to get in exercise equipment around the park. And, so you're trying to be everything to every community as well. And I absolutely love my job. I'm privileged to have the job. And the girls are getting a little bit older now, which is they're a little bit more independent. And Billy is off nappies. She's doing brilliant. Lacey, I've got a little way to go with them, And the hardest part of the job for me is actually leaving the kids. I'm in Cork, as I said, tomorrow, and there's an event in Cork tomorrow at 1 o'clock with young people. And because they heard you were down, and it was around diversity, that's an extra layer of pressure, because I've been invited to it. Now I want to go because I haven't been in Cork in 3 years, but against I get home from Cork to get the train to Cork to Dublin, then back to Donegal. It'll be late tomorrow night, and I have to make that journey back because I told my child I'd be home Friday, and that's where the abandonment come from, where if you tell them you'll be home a day and you're not home the following day, So, like, again, I've made some good changes in here that I don't ever get the opportunities to speak about, like the bill, the bill that I brought forward January of 2022 to change the wording of child pornography to child sexual abuse by materials, and I'm hoping that bill will go to a second stage in the Dáil after the recess. And change takes time, and I'd like to think that I'm not just a one-trick pony. That, like, while Traveller Inequalities is at the heart of what I do, and yeah. You're right. As soon as I write up about it, as soon as I tweet about it, I get attacked left, right and centre. But I will say one thing, it's okay, because at the end of the day, you're still educating people, and some people can't be educated. Some people are always going to be racist, are always going to try and put other people down. And that's the sad world that we live in. So we have to keep trying to raise above that and keep going as from my case, as an activist, as a mother. All I want, like yourself there with your own young son and your family, is a better life for me children.
Yeah, indeed. How have you been received by fellow politicians? Because you are an appointee. You were nominated by was it Micheál Martin at the time? He was the Taoiseach at the time. You were nominated by him. It was off the back of the advocacy work that you do, but not everyone in the Shannon is elected. But you weren't elected, and people might point out that you were elected for particular reasons. Whether that is true or false, I would say it's false. Did you have any pushback from politicians on your appointment and in the work that you're doing?
I got 76 first preference votes. I came in at number 6, and a panel of 11. There were 22 candidates on the same panel. So, like, considering I did extremely well, I did get the nominee from Micheál Martin. And to be fair, Greg, I had one negative experience where a senator said I was a token seat and I fit all of the tokenistic, I was a woman, I was a member of the traveller community, like someone from a minority group. And I had to get up and get on with that because, I'm not that full of my own importance. I get on really well. Now, there is some people that would kind of not even speak to you. Do you know what I mean? And I say hello to absolutely everybody on the corridor. I try my best with people. I haven't had any negative experience with Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil, Sinn Féin and Labour at a personal level, when you're on the corridor, when you're having something to eat. And I just get on because at the end of the day, if we want change, we're going to have to be civil, whatever civilised is, and to get on with people and get to know people as well at a human level. I would get on pretty good along with the county council, along with the county councillors in Donegal, the Niall Blaney. I get on really well with the TDs as well, and that's Sinn Féin, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. So I actually met John McHugh's mum and dad yesterday here, and it was lovely to have that, him making the effort to introduce me to his mother and father was nice. And I work with Thomas Pringle, myself and Thomas work really well together. We do a lot of campaigning together, and we just fit, like me and Thomas just make a good team. And there's only two of us, but we a great team behind us and what us too. So I couldn't ask for a better team, and the majority of my team are from Donegal. So yeah.
Well, what happens next as a nominee at the end of this Seanad term? Pardon my ignorance, Eileen, but if I don't know the answer to the question, I don't like to pretend. I'll just ask it straight out. So what happens next?
And when the 90 days after the Dáil is finished and has to be going for re-election for the new term, we finish, and that's it. That's my term done. So basically, it's up to me. It's a personal choice if I want to go to be on a panel again and go around canvassing county councillors to vote me in. I don't know if you'd be lucky enough to get the Taoiseach's nominee twice. I don't know, and I wouldn't put my hopes on it. Just like the first time around, I wasn't hoping that I would get in that way. I tried very hard to get it on my own, but if I was to go again, I would like to get it by the support of the people who can vote for me. But we have to look at reforming the Seanad, where ordinary people can vote for the Seanad as well.
Yeah, but when you haven't decided yet whether or not you're going to seek re-election to the Seanad then?
No, and the reason why, Greg, it's not until 2025. Now, see, today, I'm missing my children. I'm going to Cork tomorrow. Now, they're brilliant events, absolutely fantastic. And I could just be bad mood and say, no, I wouldn't run. And then tomorrow everything could be hunky-dory, and you're like, oh God, Billy's getting older, they're getting much bigger, maybe I will run. Do you know what I mean? So I'm in that predicament of, I'm privileged to have the opportunity. If I want to run, I can do it. And I will say I've built up great relationships along with deputies. And as I said, myself and Thomas, we work really, really well together. So it's good to have that network as well and have that relationship.
All right. Well, there is Dáil elections coming up, European elections as well, and there's potentially an extra seat in this part of the world. Could you see yourself perhaps running for the Dáil or for Europe?
Once I was going to run for Europe, actually, and I was in Donegal at the time, but I was approached by a party, and I think that was setting me up to fail. Now this is going back, obviously I was much younger at the time, and I was like, no, around the general elections, I'm going to support, if he decides to run, Thomas to go in the generals, and I wouldn't put myself forward, most definitely not. And I think Donegal people are very traveller community, actually, and a lot of your listeners might laugh at that because Donegal people do vote for their own, and I respect that. So I wouldn't run for the general elections in Donegal. No, maybe in 10 or 15 years, maybe something, if I was still alive and well, whatever, maybe something to think about. But, why fix something if it isn't broken? I genuinely believe in that, because I have a good personal relationship with him. But I believe Thomas is doing a really good job, and I'm great to be able to support him like I've supported many people.
But what if his machine? What if his machine would to get behind you for a run at Europe? Was that something that sounds a little bit more interesting to you then at this time?
No, because Donegal is home for the girls, and it's tough enough coming up. It's probably would be easier actually to go to Europe.
Certainly than it is to Cork anyway. You definitely. Well, I spoke to a few MEPs when we were over there recently, and it seems like even if you don't have a family like you have and responsibilities, it seems like a glamorous lifestyle, but it's not really. And a lot of them have to live outside Brussels itself because of accommodation. There's an awful lot of travel and an awful lot of loneliness too once the door's locked of an evening, which I got my eyes opened a little bit to that life. Finally, before you let you go, Eileen, we're talking about the struggles that you're experiencing, and all other politicians, I think Dublin-based from rural areas, would, having to split family and work. I think it is, and I think it's great to be honest and say I think it's definitely more difficult for women. But that's because the way we do it at the moment. And even if you were in the council, Eileen, you would be 2 or 3 days a week that you would see. They'd probably be in bed by the time you got home. You spend a lot of time in Dublin that you probably don't actually need to be there if we looked at things a different way. Why is there no push on to sort of try and blend things a little bit so people can spend more time at home but still be productive?
Yes. Sometimes I joke and say just move Leinster House to Donegal, to be able to have the opportunity to talk at a local level and still be a senator or a deputy for many people. But Greg, they sit the 3 days a week. There's little or no supports from the Oireachtas and at a council level for childcare, and I put Billy's name in for childcare in the Dáil going back over the 3 years ago, and I still haven't got the call saying that she got a place or she didn't get a place. She as far as I know, she's still on the waiting list, and I haven't took her off the waiting list, even though my children has got a childminder, their auntie, and they couldn't be what a better person. So you have to make services much better especially for women in politics, and as well parents in politics too, because our children shouldn't be obstacles, or our children should be part of the progress and part of the journey as well. But again, we can be more productive from a local level. But again, that comes with reforming Shannon. It comes with getting more women from Donegal, from rural Ireland, to be in a local level as well. And my view is that 40% of the voting now in every single political party, while women make up 50% of the population. In my opinion, that's an insult. Do you know what I mean? So even by our political parties, we're still treated 10% less than what men are. And obviously, I think women should be supporting women. And again, we talk about women in politics, it's genuinely about getting the right women in politics, the women who are, who do believe in human rights and equality. Because, I work with women every day, and there's at least one woman in Leinster House that I wouldn't see would be very women equality friendly, funny enough, and we don't need people like that in our political system at a local level or at a national level. Maternity leave for county councillors as well, and I will say, county councillors are on crap money for the work that they have to do, and that needs to be looked at as well. They do need to look at giving county councillors more power too, because it's a local authority. You're going into a system. There's only so much you can do when you're a local councillor as well, and people don't understand that, because county councillors have little or no powers, and also on a very poor wages as well. So that all needs to change.
Yeah, indeed. And how many great people are we missing in positions of power because they've had to make a decision over being a parent or a family person and a politician? I mean, finally, how did that whole story with your taxi experience finish in the end? Did you speak to the taxi driver subsequently, or was anything clarified, or what happened after that, Eileen?
No, I just told the story. I haven't heard from them. Greg, to be honest, as I said, one part of me would sit back and regret it because the amount of hassle I got from it, and I do get fear as well. But if you compare me to another senator in the House, not one of them have to have that kind of experience, and I think it's important that we share that. And my life was not a struggle, if you want, you know what I mean? I love my life. I have a great partner. I have lovely 2 children. My husband is really good, and I just get up and get on with it. But some days it is really tough when you have to keep leaving the kids and stuff. But they do know it's a better future for them too. So yeah. All
right. Thanks for all your time today, Eileen. Enjoy your trip to Cork, and hopefully you get back safe and sound for Friday. Take care of yourself. Bye bye. Okay, that's Senator Eileen Flynn. Just to get an insight into her life, and we might focus on another politician down the line just to have a chat and see what life is like for them. 086 60 25,000. We are going to be talking history soon with Dr. Joe. It's always a really popular item on the programme, and we're going to be talking about the famine because a very important anniversary is upon us. So any questions or comments with Dr. Joe, of course, get in touch.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
If you're 70 or over or have a weak immune system, it's time for your spring COVID-19 booster vaccine. Your spring booster will top up your immunity against COVID-19 for the months ahead, protecting you from serious illness or needing to go to hospital. You will be invited for another booster in the autumn to top up your protection for the winter months. Spring boosters are available until the end of May, so don't delay. Contact your local participating GP or pharmacy. Call our team in HSC Live on 1800 700 700 or visit hsc.ie to make an appointment at a HSC vaccination centre. From the HSC.
Why did I choose Ulster? I wanted a university who could give me the biggest possible future, but also the best possible time now. Somewhere I could make friends and have good crack, but also to set me up for the best job possible. I'm planning to take up one of the study abroad options, and then my big plan is to specialise in media law in LA. But for now, NI has one of the lowest student living costs in the UK. So, night markets, here I come.
Learn why over 30,000 students choose Ulster at ulster.ac.uk/go north. Apply now for this September.
Preparing for a special occasion? Sorrento Shoes has the finishing touch. Shoes and bags in pastel shades, bling or classic neutrals. Sorrento Shoes. Available in all leading shoe stores.
Tommy Marin here, writer of It's the Real McCoy and 3 Hail Marys. Join me at On Grain on Letterkenny for my new show Celebration Ireland, Saturday, May 27th. Hilarious sketches, sing-songs and so much more. Celebration Ireland on Grain on Letterkenny, Saturday, May 27th. Book on 07491 20777 or on grainon.com.
Around the Northwest with John Breslin will be live this Friday from the Irish Wheelchair Association in Glenview Business Park, Letterkenny, for a celebration of their Community Day services. Come along and find out about their assisted living service, employment opportunities, community employment scheme, volunteering opportunities with advice and a demonstration of an adapted vehicle that's used to support driving lessons. There's also light refreshments and giveaways. That's this Friday from 12 noon at the Irish Wheelchair Association Centre, Glenview Business Park, Letterkenny.
All right, you're very welcome back to the programme. I'll start that again. Time to talk history with our historian in residence, Dr. Joe Kelly. Joe, good morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Maidin White, Greg, the chain agus the luck déiste. Good morning to yourself and to your listeners there in Highland Radio.
All right, okay. Now, last Sunday marked the 175th National Commemoration of the Famine, which was held in Milford. We had President Michael D. Higgins and Minister Jack Chambers and our own Cahirloch, Liam Blaney, in attendance. And good time now for us to discuss the famine. Before I get into it, I'm going to start with a big one here. We talk about it.
Easy on.
Yeah, no, but we call it a famine, right? Yeah. And you know, we have a modern sense of what a famine is. A famine is, and a description of it. It's where crops fail. It's where, there's nothing to eat. There's no rain. There's no growth in the land. But there was food in Ireland, and that food was taken from the Irish and exported. I'm not sure, and you can tell me to a point whereby that was one of the main reasons why people were starving. But was it, how do you define it, Joe, with your background?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and maybe with the way we're going with Ireland and the peace process is probably a very politically sensitive matter as well. And it's very interesting that Tony Blair, 25 years ago, during the Good Friday Agreement, when things were trying to be bedded down, apologised to the nation of Ireland for the neglect of the famine by the British government. See, one needs to remember that in 1801, the Act of Union, so the famine was 1840, the worst year was 1847. So some 4 decades after the Act of Union, when we lost our own government, we were really British in that sense. So it was a British famine as opposed to an Irish famine. And we didn't have a government. And so we were controlled by Westminster. And they did some very positive things, but not enough. And I think the famine, the policy that England had led to our famine to some degree. And what people maybe don't understand is that England had gone through an industrial revolution, and there was an urbanisation of England. And the policy in England then by Westminster was that Ireland would become the breadbasket for England to feed it with its agriculture. So Ireland wasn't to be developed with industry. And in that way, we were hamstrung by British policy, which was to their own benefit and not to ours. And so there is that question. And Cecil Woodham Smith, she wrote a book, and she actually had said that she was one of the first, that it wasn't a famine, that it was actually a genocide, that it was neglect by the British government because they controlled us in their policies that led us to our...
and do you agree, or does the truth lie somewhere in between that claim and what we would know as a famine?
Well, it's very easy to judge again from sitting back here from the perspective of history and having more knowledge and understanding of how it played out. But the reality is that they did do things. They did import grain. That was Peel's Brimstone. Peel was the Prime Minister. And then during the middle of the famine, Lord Russell, he became the Prime Minister. He did bring in public works, building bridges, piers, roads. Many of those piers and roads are here in Donegal today that we use. They also set up soup kitchens. But their attitude was that you shouldn't get free food without having to give labour.
Okay, and we'll get on to that, because that's where the workhouses come from. And I'm interested in your assessment on that. But just finally on how we phrase it and how we view it, have we had, or do we need a national conversation or something convened where we settle on that part of our history, even if that is politically controversial?
That'll be a very interesting question. I would be more interested in settling on what has the effect of the famine been on us, on our soul, on our psyche, on our understanding, and who we are. I remember a number of people, but one woman, for example, from Fanet down in Kinalaw, it was known as Nellie Veck, and her parents were alive during the famine. So my memory of the famine is within one generation of someone knowing people that grew up on the famine, and we're all about 5 or 6 generations in real terms away from the famine. Historically, 175 years ago now, saying that someone is 50, that means it's 125 years away. In that sense, it is not, 150 years away. It is not a very long distance historically, but it has impacted on our soul. And back to the thing, and I have to be very careful about England. Daniel O'Connell wanted Home Rule, and one of his biggest opponents was Isaac Butt, who was a Norwich man, who was a Protestant, who was of landed gentry, and who was totally opposed to him. And Daniel O'Connell said to him, someday you're going to jump across to my side and you will be arguing for Home Rule. And actually he did. Isaac Butt, who became the father of Irish nationalism and Home Rule, he changed his mind after the famine. As an Orangeman, as a Protestant, he realised that England were interfering in the normal economics and social development of Ireland, and he realised that we needed our own government. And this is back maybe to understanding our history and how England will always serve its own interests first, and we have always suffered because of that. And so when you talk about the famine and do we need to have a conversation, I think we need to talk about our own self-worth and our own self-understanding of what happened to us. The impact on the famine in Ireland, right away, 1 million people died, 1 million people left the country. The Irish language was the beginning of the decay or the decline of the Irish language. It was the beginning of a lot of diaspora, a lot of effects of the famine. But here's what it really did. It robbed us of our poets, our fiddlers, our shanachie. It robbed us of the cleaned out lots of the older generation.
Do you know what that reminds me a little bit of? I was in, and it's completely different, and I'm not equating this with anything, but just in terms of how culturally you can lose so much. I was in I can't remember which one it was, a German city. Knock were doing flights to it or whatever. I went over there, and just speaking to tour guides and talking to people, and because of Nazi Germany. And because of wanting to forget the past, and this is for different reasons, of course, anything that was even remotely associated with or could be Nazi Germany was wiped, you know, be it architecture, but also songs, pieces of music, writings, drawings, nothing, tons and tons of stuff that wasn't actually directly to do with Nazi Germany or Hitler in itself. A massive swathe of 2 or 3 generations of art and culture or what have you gone, and it's kind of, and there is some attempts to try and weed all that out and bring some of it past, but it was erased from German history for understandable reasons, and the same happened here from a different reason because of a natural disaster. You know, how much was lost?
Oh, I think it's going to take us, and I've said this before, we've had 800 years of colonialism, and at the end of that period of colonialism, we had a famine that basically wiped out the natural people that would pass on tradition in Latin, traditio, to hand on. So the language, the music, the folklore, all these people that had died, those people that would have all that story, all that history, we were... When we came out of the famine, we were battered and bruised psychologically, socially, spiritually, and it played a big lot on our soul and our psyche, so much so that I think that, you know, our housing crisis today and different issues that we have today, everybody wants to own their house because somewhere in our psyche we didn't have. People are very generous in Ireland. We'd never want to see anybody without, and we're very generous for Tráchra and collections, and when we hear of famines in other countries, because we know deep down in our own psyche we were once that downtrodden, broken people.
So whether we're aware of it, like, you know, we don't have the awareness. We can't help, but that is what's been handed down in the only 2, 3, 4, 5 short generations past. That hangover, that shadow, still affects us, even if we don't have the awareness to understand that might be why we are the way we are in certain ways.
And I think that's got to do with part of our lack of confidence in ourselves, lack of belief in ourselves. And, you know, the politicians of that time let us down, and we knew that. And maybe we're still like that, thinking like that politicians should have let us down, where we should be expecting higher standards from those that are appointed to make our country a better country. And that's not a criticism at anybody.
No, it's a conversation on the people. It's not. I know you're not referencing the politicians, but look, the time is just going to go so quick. So I just presumably there'd been failures of potato in the past. Did they lead to famine, death, disease previously? Obviously not on the 1847 scale, that being the worst year, but it must have happened in the past, of course.
Yes, famine was regular in Ireland. I mean, in my own parish in 1839, there was a severe famine, and the priest in Gweedore, for example, Father Doherty, had written about this famine that 9/10 of the population were starving. Famines were regular. There were a number of famines in 1850. And in fact, I would argue as a historian, the 1880 famine that was in Donegal was possibly worse than the 1847 famine. So when we think of the famine, we think of it nationally. But for example, during that time in the 1880s, 34,000 people in Donegal were on food lists. There was such a bad famine in 1880, but maybe that's for another day talking. So famines were a regular occurrence. And see, what basically happened was, with an industrialisation of England and the need for more food, etc., Ireland had a system of subdividing the land, and the population was growing, about 1 million every 10 years. That's an amazing growth rate in the 1800s. So when we get to the famine, Irish population is growing 1 million every 10 years. And this is down to the simple potato, the lumper. You didn't need a lot of land, and you could produce a lot of spuds and feed your family. And what people maybe don't realise, the spud itself is a superfood. It's an amazing fruit. It has more potassium than a banana. I mean, if you lived on a diet of spuds, you will be actually very, very healthy. It prevents cancer. It helps strengthen bones. It relieves stress. It has vitamin C, vitamin B6. It has sodium, to help you keep you from cholesterol. It's cholesterol free. It's an amazing food. So this superfood was the diet for, they estimate, about 4.5 million people in Ireland at that time. And so when the Blight came in 1846, they didn't have this fallback food. This was what they were living on. The Blight hit other parts of Europe as well, but they were not as dependent on the potato.
They diversified to some extent, whereas we were very reliant upon it.
And that led then just basically to the perfect storm. So how now were we going to feed ourselves? And the reality is that food, and this is what various historians have proven and shown, wheat and corn were still being exported from Ireland during the famine. It's hard to believe that, but food was exported from Ireland during the famine.
But who was making that decision? Because someone had to make a decision, because every action has a reaction. There's consequences for all the action. Someone or a group of people must have said, we are taking this food and it will lead to the starvation and death of hundreds of thousands of people, and it ended up being in the millions, not to mention forcing us to scatter around the world to try and seek out some. And I think sometimes we need to remember that element of our history, that we fled this country and we landed in other countries with nothing. And we weren't safe at home. We were landed in countries at nothing, and to a great extent, the doors were opened for us, and we were allowed to make lives there. And we celebrate that now as a part of our history. But maybe all the roads come back to you not wanting to criticise the English, and if that's the case, I get that, right? But we were thrown under the bus to someone had to decide to say, right, we are going to continue to make the money from exporting this food from Ireland, and that means people will starve as a result.
Well, you see, it was the kind of the prevalent economic philosophy at the time, not just in England, but in France and in other parts of Europe. It was called laissez-faire, laissez-aller. In other words, let things be the way they are, and water kind of finds its own level. So if there's poverty, leave it the way it is, and people will have to work their way out of poverty. If there's people making money, leave it the way it is and let them make money. I mean, if you go back into the 80s with Margaret Thatcher, she talked about there's no such thing as society. It was only the individual, and you must support the individual to become very wealthy. She broke the unions. So that was a philosophy that people had, that if you were poor, if you were hungry, it was your own fault.
Well, Joe, are you up to your ears, or can you come back after 11 for 10 minutes? Before I go, why did we not grow carrots and turnips and catch fish and eat that? And I'm not being facetious, right? But, you know, our lakes and rivers and seas are plentiful. There is, you know, could we not have grown other root vegetables, vegetables and eaten fish or meat?
Well, there's a few answers to that. Number one is those other foods wouldn't have given you what the spud would have given you to feed your family. That's the first thing. Secondly was farm husbandry, your farming methods. They wouldn't have had the knowledge or the technology or the know-how and the availability for them. It wasn't what they were used to. And when you mention fishing, like the population in Torrey Island and Donegal increased during the famine because they had fish, and that probably sustained them.
I get you. It was like a lifeboat, effectively, then.
Yeah, but most people in Donegal didn't know how to fish, didn't have boats to fish.
I get you.
So, I mean, asking them to fish when they didn't know how to, or didn't have the equipment to fish and didn't have boats. So therefore, you know, there was that problem of how do you transfer from being dependent on a potato to other types of food.
All right, now, I hope that question didn't come across as insensitive, but I think sometimes it's best just to ask, because I'm sure there's kids of 8 or 9 years of age have put the hand up in class and asked the exact same question. Right, Dr. Joe Kelly's going to stay with us. We are going to take a break and then the news, and then we've got some questions that we want to run through with him. So stay right where you are. Joe, thanks very much for the time. You've time to grab a cup of tea. Back in about 2 minutes with the news.
In this week's RTE Guide, today shows Sinead Kennedy on long-distance relationships and how parenthood has changed her life. From biking to bathing, our Out and About issue is bustling with tips for things to do this summer. And from Barbie to Oppenheimer, we preview summer's big movie releases. Everything and more. RTE Guide, on sale now.
Why did I choose Ulster? I wanted a university who could give me the biggest possible future, but also the best possible time now. Somewhere I could make friends and have good crack, but also to set me up for the best job possible. I'm planning to take up one of the study abroad options, and then my big plan is to specialise in media law in LA. But for now, NI has one of the lowest student living costs in the UK. So, night markets, here I come.
Learn why over 30,000 students choose Ulster at ulster.ac.uk/go north. Apply now for this September.
This summer, enjoy the tastiest burger in town for less at Kelly's Diner, Letterkenny. With Jake's famous burgers, there's your choice of burger, beef, chicken or veggie, all freshly prepared, with your pick of delicious toppings and sides. Selected burger deals every weekend. Find the best value burger in town. Jake's Burgers at Kelly's Diner, Mountain Top, Letterkenny.
Dunfanny Golf Club on the North Atlantic coast. Come join us with opens on Wednesday and Saturday. Come challenge your game against a links course that will test you. With incredible value and great prizes, put Dunfanny Golf Club on your playlist this summer. To book, call 074 9136 335. Dunfanny Golf Club. Just magical.
Donegal Tile Centre are celebrating 35 years in business and are holding a massive 3-day sale this Thursday, Friday and Saturday, during which they're offering 35% discount off selected items. Wall tiles are reduced from $16.95 a square yard to €11, with timber effect floor tiles reduced from $22.95 a square yard to $14.90. There's vanity units down from €460 to $299, and freestanding bath reduced from €1,230 to $799. Stock is limited, so don't delay for these genuine bargains. Get along this week to Donegal Tile Centre, Ross Few Business Park, Letterkenny, just off the Polestar roundabout.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Okay, Dr. Joe Kelly will be back with us shortly, but first let's get a news update, and it's good morning to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Moy has confirmed that job cuts are on the way at its Rinmore base in Fannet. The company says the decision has been taken following a global review to streamline processing plants, which are under capacity, with secondary fish processing set to cease in Ireland in October. In a statement, they say as a result, a number of staff will be made redundant in Donegal. Private Sean Rooney will be honoured at the United Nations headquarters in New York today. The Irish ambassador to the UN will receive a medal on behalf of the family of the Irish peacekeeper. 23-year-old Private Rooney was killed while on duty in Lebanon last December. A portion of the surplus of the Irish Red Cross Creeslaw Community Support Fund will go towards providing trauma support. A meeting took place in the town last night to discuss what the remaining €236,000 will go towards. To date, €1.4 million of the fund has been spent on compensation for loss of jobs, income, homes, to cover travel, medical and funeral expenses, as well as bereavement recognition payments. A row over the budget is causing tension among government parties 5 months out from when it's due to be delivered. It comes after Fine Gael junior ministers published an opinion piece in a newspaper calling for €1,000 in tax cuts for middle income workers. Fianna Fáil ministers believe the move is unhelpful and designed to heap pressure on Finance Minister Michael McGrath. Donegal County Council is being urged to write to the Department of Housing ahead of the imminent publication of the revised Defective Block Redress Scheme. Councillor Martin McDermott, chair of the Council's Defective Block Redress Committee, is calling for the building condition assessment requirement to be revised. And the RTB recommends introducing significant fines for people carrying out illegal evictions. In a response to a request by the Housing Minister, the Residential Tenancies Board has made a number of recommendations to crack down on unfair evictions. They include giving Gardaí the power to arrest without a warrant anyone participating in an illegal eviction. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update at 12 noon.
Thank you, Michaela. Dr. Joe Kelly, thanks very much for holding on. Right, so let's talk about landlords in Donegal. How did they respond to the appearance of the famine?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And maybe to set it in context, when England were looking at they realised that there was a serious problem in Ireland, and they set up a commission, a poor investigation committee in 1838. And it did its report and found that there was about 2.5 million people on the poverty line all the time with a want of food. And they said, well, how are we going to address this? We have a problem in Ireland. And so the solution was, they suggested, first of all, not to use the English system of poor law, the workhouse system in England, that this wouldn't work in Ireland. But the government in England at the time didn't want to hear this. And they said, no, we're going to extend what we have in England into Ireland. It fits in England, so it fits in Ireland. And it was totally inappropriate. And so what they did is they set up workhouses throughout the whole of Ireland, about 130. And there was 8 unions here in Donegal, like Milford, where we had the commemoration there at the weekend, and Dunfanaghy and different Glenties and different places like that. And they said that will be the system by which we will alleviate the poverty. The problem with this was that local people had to pay for the upkeep of those houses. So the poor people in these areas had to pay for the poor people in these places. And the way they worked it out was that if you had a farm worth £4, you must pay rates. And those rates, that tax, would go to the maintenance of the workhouses. So that was the philosophy. But if your farm wasn't over £4, valued £4, then you didn't have to pay rates. Well, in the case of, for example, in Falcarra, £4 in those times was 960 old pence. The average holding in Falcarra and Cloughaneely was about 400 pence. So they were halfways, way below halfways of the poverty line. And Gweedore was even worse. Their farms were worth about 240 pence. Now, the poverty line was 960 pence. So most people were so poor that they couldn't pay for these rates. So the thing was then it was left to the landlords to pay. Mm-hmm. And this is where the problem arose. So if a landlord had a busy workhouse, he was having to pay for it. So the moral of the story was you need to evict the people, get them out of your land, get them away from you because you don't want to have to pay for them. And so what happened during the famine, because of the poor law system, many people, upwards of 1 million people, were evicted in Ireland because of the bureaucracy of the British poor law system. And rather than helped us, it actually exasperated and made worse the situation for the ordinary.
I mean, we have another situation where a government makes a policy that impacts the poorest most.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how then could those people find their way to a workhouse to feed themselves?
Well, the problem was when you went to the workhouse, you had to give up your farm and you never got back to it again. So the landlord took possession of your farm. So now you were without a home and without land. So your choice was either to die or to emigrate. And you mentioned something very wonderful there about our own history and emigration. When people come back, immigrants come back, you know what they stand for me? And we have statues to remind us of the famine and national commemoration statues and all the rest. But when I see someone come home from abroad, they remind me of the famine because they were the people that had to leave, and they have the memory of the famine maybe greater than us because they know why they are where they are. Partially, many people had left before the famine.
Well,
for
listen,
the famine.
And as you say earlier on, we've been conditioned, or because of our recent history, in how we are generous and we're welcoming and opening, and also that sense to, at a certain age, it seems, either by choice or necessity, to travel the world and try and better yourself. Those seeds were planted around famine time as well. How many people can we estimate died in Donegal as the result of the famine? Our population now, say, for instance, is around about 163, 64. It's probably actually close to 170,000 now with new residents. But do we know what the population of Donegal was at famine times? And do we have a number as to how many passed away?
Yeah, well, the population of Donegal would have been a lot higher then. They reckon in Ulster, and we remember a lot of as in Belfast, more urban areas didn't have the same famine results as we had as in deaths. They estimate also about 111,000 people died during the famine. And in Donegal, it's somewhere in the region of 13,000 people. 13,000 people. And in 1847 alone, that number was 5,000. So 5,000 of the people of Donegal died. And the population would have been a lot higher then than it is now. It would have been probably about 240, 250,000, I'd imagine, at that time. So, over a period, say, from 45 to 51, somewhere in that region, about 40,000 Irish or Donegal people either left or died.
How much higher might that be without the workhouses?
I don't think the workhouses achieved a terrible lot. See, the problem with the workhouses...
Well, people were able to feed themselves, though. I mean, you talked what there was it 14 or how many did you say was in Donegal? But in any case...
14,000 died in Donegal during the famine.
But in terms of the workhouses, people were able to work and to feed themselves. Surely that would it not have prevented further...
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, again, there's a number of historians have done research and published books about the workhouses. And just from my own understanding and listening to, for example, the priest that wrote at that time, a lot of the people didn't want to go to the workhouses because they were very harsh. People weren't very well fed there. The workhouses were overstressed. They had maybe 3 times the capacity that they were built for. And the landlords that were paying for these workhouses and to feed them didn't want too much money spent. So a lot of people actually died in the workhouses. Yeah. And what happened in the workhouses as well was fever came into the workhouses and it killed a lot of people. So people were afraid to go to the workhouse in case, first of all, the malnutrition and then fever. And what maybe people don't understand is fever killed more people than actually starvation. What happened was obviously your immune system's down because of the lack of food, because of malnutrition, but then the fever gets in easily enough and it killed loads of people in Donegal. Fever killed people more than hunger itself. And so what people didn't want to go to the workhouse, and what actually did happen was people built little turf huts outside their own homes and they fed people with fever on a shovel. And you either lived and survived or you died and you were buried. Wow. But they didn't have them in the house and they're hoping that the fever would pass. And that's the way they would treat them. And there's a lovely story told about down in the folklore collection of 1947 on the 100th anniversary of the famine. They sent people out to gather folklore of the living memory. And there's one story told by a woman down there in the Manchera, that's there in Crawley, down beside Tessie's and Leo's down that direction. And she talked about how people... when the fever got into the house, nobody went and visited their house. Reminds me a wee bit of COVID. Nobody would go and visit. Yeah. And one by one, people died. And what happened then, she described how hungry dogs went round and they ate some of these remains. And then when people came back to themselves, she said, they went and they burned their houses because of the disease and the bacteria or the whatever disease would be in that. So rather than going to the house, they burned the houses. They gathered the bodies, the remains, the bones, and buried them and burned the houses. So look, it was a horrific vista when you think in it like that. And the suffering
it was. I want you to define, because we have obviously some of the workhouses have been knocked down. Some remain pretty much intact, and we know the sites of the others. What do they stand for in our history? In other words, what should, if we were to put something to commemorate on that site, is it death and disease and hardship? Or if I asked you to go into Donegal town now and define that workhouse and how we should treat it in our history, how would you do it?
Look, we can't change our past. And I think we need to be very aware of it and understand it and be very much tied into the emotion of what happened, and to be very, very cognizant of just the pain, the suffering, the loss and all that. But you know what? You see, this is where you have to have hope. That should be a transformative experience and make us better human beings. And I think the Irish people, strangely, we are better people because of our famine. We are more generous and kind and welcoming and understanding and friendly. We know what loss is. We know what suffering is. And if I were to put in any kind of symbol, I think of the children of Lir that were converted into swans. It's a famous mythological story. And like set free, so to speak. In a way, we need to liberate ourselves from this. And it's going to take us about 200 or 300 years to move on from the psychological.
But that's why I talked about us having a national conversation, because I think sometimes you can only move forward when you actually determine where you're at and you settle on a history, and then you can say, right, from here we go forward. And you know, and a happy birthday to a lady, Ireland's oldest person, 109. She celebrated her birthday this year. Her mother or father would only have to have been 85 for them to be able to tell that lady who's living right now what it was like to live through the famine. It came to my mind to articulate how recent this is to us. The oldest lady in Ireland, her mum or dad would only have to be 75 to have been 10 through the worst of the famine. Just very finally, a caller says that their impression is that the famine is regarded as a Southern Ireland issue, and they believe there's very little about the famine in Northern Ireland. You've already referenced we do have figures across Ulster. 111,000 people died by the famine, but is there something to what the listener says? Is that slightly complicated because of the political makeup of Northern Ireland as well, and how we're struggling maybe to discuss it? It's even more complicated maybe for elements of the community in Northern Ireland.
Well, first of all, I mean, the potato blight didn't work because you were Catholic or Protestant. It crossed everybody. Yeah. But the farm husbandry of planters were always far more advanced than us. That's just a historical reality. They planted hedges. They had fruit, apples and pears. They knew this. They were very, very organised, very clean, very good farm husbandry. We didn't have that. And we didn't have the knowledge that they had. But having said that, and this is very, very important, it's very easy to point the finger and blame the landlords. There were a lot of good landlords. Hamilton in Donegal town, he was a recklessly generous landlord. He spent all his money. Alford and Ballyconnell and Falcarra and Hill, they spent about £4,000 of their own money feeding people. There were a lot of good landlords. And as regards Northern Ireland, the London Dairy Ladies Association, they were workwomen in London Dairy Association in Derry. They raised money and sent it into Donegal. For example, they sent £15 to the people of Buncrana. And that would have been a lot of money back then. The Quakers, the Society of Friends, they brought in, I think it was about 1920 big soup boilers into Donegal. To feed the people of Donegal. The Cadburys and the Barnvilles, they were very generous, and they were motivated by their religion and their sense of common humanity. So one has to be very careful when one is talking about this, not to be pointing and blaming. Yeah. There were policy deficiencies, but you know what? There were also brilliant people that stood up and did what they could. Even for example, Catholic priests, not many, but a number of them here in Donegal, some of them got the fever themselves when they were out visiting the people, and some of them died. They weren't immune to this either. So, there's that whole side of it as well.
And I think too, if you don't mind me saying, and you can associate yourself with these comments or otherwise, in that we started this conversation talking about the famine and the fact that food was taken from this country that perhaps could have helped to sustain the population. We should reflect on that, I think, as a nation, when we have hundreds of thousands of children living in poverty, 200,000, when we have so many people accessing food banks. We know the food banks across Donegal are under pressure at the moment. The shelves are running dry, and there are in the high hundreds families who are now regularly having to go to food banks to feed themselves. Before maybe sometimes we look back at history and go, oh, look what the Brits did to us. Maybe we should say that should be a reminder to ensure in a country that we're reminded constantly of how wealthy it is, that we're kind of guilty of doing that to our own people right now, Joe.
I agree with you. And again, I think it's back to maybe our own psyche that we expect so little from people in leadership. We expect so little from people that are in charge of us, and we think that, they're not listening or they don't have to be accountable to us. And that's maybe our fault. We need to start believing in ourselves and say, no, we deserve better. We have a right to have better. And just maybe to put it in a context worldwide, if I'd been talking to you, say, 10 years ago, I'd have been saying to you 80 individuals fit into a double-decker bus had more money than half the population. Now it's down to 8. 8 wealthy men have more money than half the population of the world, while people are starving and hunger and poverty and war. I don't know how those people can live with their conscience.
No, I don't know how. I don't know how, and set themselves up as heroes too in some regards. And also, we as a people, I believe, really need to hit the reset button and start being together, because we are allowing ourselves to be divided. So you'll have people who are working going, oh, look at them people on social welfare, they should be doing this, that and the other. We have others going, look at why should we have these people homeless and these people are coming in and taking this, that and the other. And it works. If you're in the political elite and you want to keep the status quo, it's perfect, because you've got the population arguing amongst each other and split and divided. We the people need to start pulling together, because if you talk about holding a government to account, whichever government that might be, a divided people will never do that, because they're arguing over what the government is doing wrong. You know what I mean? And I think people need to start focusing on what unites them more than what's divided them. And we need to get that sense of community, that Irish community back, that now you have to go to Dubai or London or New York or Brisbane to see. And it's there alive and well, Joe. That sense of community is there still, but it's being lost in this country and it's getting worse all the time.
Well, I think I've had this debate with you before. I'm going back to the famine. We were ruled from Westminster. It was an Irish famine for Irish people to solve, even though we didn't have the government that was supposedly our government allowing us to do anything about it. And if you look, just for example, last week alone, in our own government, they brought in, for example, they're questioning our neutrality. They've put in under the back door, people aren't aware of it, a new sex ed program that's just horrific. They're bringing in new, the speech law I talked to you before, hate speech. They're bringing in all these laws by an agenda from the top. And at the bottom, the everyday Joe soap, who's talking about electricity prices? Who's talking about food prices? Who's fighting for the real issues that matter? It's not been done from the top.
No, but you see, I get you. I don't agree with everything that you've said there in terms of my views and yours might differentiate on a couple of those issues, but that's fine. That doesn't matter. That we and you can have a chat and sort it out, and you might change my views, and God forbid I might even change yours if we did. But my point is you see, then when you get down to it, right, people, we don't just let's have a debate on hate speech. What happens is then it's hate speech so that you can't criticize trans people, or it's hate speech that you can't criticize migrants, right? That's not what it's all about. And as soon as we start daisy chaining the issues, the debate disappears because it's piggybacked and it's hijacked. No, I'm not saying it's not relevant to those issues, right? But it's perfect, because you have the population arguing not about hate speech. They start arguing about trans rights or immigration or migration, and the government will sit there and go, well, look, we can just introduce this because these people haven't a clue what they're on about. So we need to start talking about issues. Yes, we can use examples, but I think when we start grouping a number of issues in together, then it becomes liberalism versus being conservative, and we just end up in this endless loop and cycle, and we get nowhere. And all the while, the big boys can do whatever they like, Joe.
Well, I mean, the political elite are running the world. Just talk about the wealthy people. Why is there not a worldwide wealth tax? They talk about, they can come together for COP and for environmental and climate change. Can they not come together and introduce a wealth tax worldwide? These billionaires that are making such money, and nothing's been done about it because it doesn't suit
the people. We have the world's richest man in Elon Musk, who I actually don't have a problem with. He is lauded by the people who have nothing as the saviour. Not only that, they give him €8 a month for the pleasure, right, of listening to his words. Humanity, what hope is there when the richest man in the world is seen as a hero to the poor? And people don't.
Elon Musk, he's challenging the status quo.
To whose benefit? He's driving traffic. He's driving traffic to save his 44 billion. And he might frame it up as being free speech. It's not. How can free speech cost €8 a month, Joe? Don't tell me you're drinking that Kool-Aid.
No, I'm sorry. I don't spend the €8 on it.
Listen, come here.
My children, be looking for money for Xboxes and top-ups and on the computer games. And I say to them, where's this money going? It's going into some very wealthy...
Come here, let them enjoy the Xbox. All right, come here, I have to go.
But listen, back to the famine.
Briefly,
to say that, look, as a nation, we have to have that conversation, as you mentioned, and we have to think a lot more about it. There's a lot of sad stories there, but there's also a lot of hope if we think about it in a positive way and how we're a better people for it. And finally, just to mention that one of the areas that were most hit by the famine, and there's a lovely book called The Outer Edge of Ulster, edited by Professor Brenton McSivney, called The Outer Edge of Ulster, and it describes what happened in Fanet during the famine, how it basically went from 10,000 people down to 3,000 or 4,000 people, and how the whole social fabric of Fanet was kind of fell apart because of it. And just to say that I was at Fanet the weekend, a big shout out to Anya Peter McConaughey, who launched a book about Fanet, and it ties in with that famine era last weekend. So it's a big plus for Fanet, and to congratulate her and the people of Fanet for this lovely, wonderful book that was launched there last weekend.
And I think I see a picture of you in the paper at that event, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Have a lovely day, Joe. That's Dr. Joe Kelly, historian there. Right, okay, I have to take a 4-minute break. Please stay where you are, because an interesting topic just around the corner.
For great value in suits, visit Watson Menswear in Letterkenny. Top labels like Rimazumo, White Label, Spectre and Daniel Grail. For the finishing touch, there's also a great choice of shirts, ties and footwear. Extra reductions for all wedding parties. At Watson Menswear, open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny. See watsonmenswear.com.
Charge into summer with TUI. Choose from a beach cruise or city break, or Mexico flying direct from Dublin. Holiday sorted. TUI, live happy.
€250 beef price gap. For more, here's Paul Mooney.
In this week's Irish Farmers Journal, we reveal how a massive price gap has opened up between factories. Department mapping peatlands for new cap rules. State body snaps up 1,500-acre hill farm for €1 million. Taoiseach concern re-wetting law goes too far. We reveal how your co-op ranks in our milk price review. And find out how you can cut your tax when transferring your farm.
All in this week's Irish Farmers Journal.
Ballyshannon and Killybegs Credit Union just got better. Our new current account comes with MasterCard debit card for use in store, online and contactless payments. All with lower transparent fees and with the same trusted personal service you are used to. Open your Ballyshannon Killybegs Credit Union current account today. Drop into branch or join online. Terms and conditions apply. Visit bkcreditunion.ie for details. Ballyshannon and Killybegs Credit Union Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Join us for the Hyundai 232 Celebration Week, May 22nd to 28th. Celebrating Ioniq 6, winner of World Car Design of the Year, World Electric Car of the Year, and overall World Car of the Year 2023. And the Ioniq 5, winner of the same awards in 2022. Visit the Hyundai 232 Celebration Week to order your new Hyundai from our multi-award winning range, including Ireland's best-selling car, the Tucson. Hyundai, a class apart.
The 232 Celebration Week is now on at Divers Hyundai, Canal Road, Letterkenny, until Sunday the 28th.
Every year, about 2,600 people in Ireland get bowel cancer. Bowel screening helps to reduce your risk of developing it. If you're aged 60 to 69, you can register today for a free bowel screen test kit. Once you've done the test at home, return it by free post and we'll test your sample for levels of blood. If you need any more tests, we'll let you know. Register today at hse.ie/bowel screen or free phone 1800 45 45 55. From the HSE.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Rossview Interiors, together with Donegal Tile Centre, are having a mega 3-day sale this Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Get a massive 35% discount off a huge selection of light fittings and pictures. There's dining sets from €790, 2 1-in-1 chocolate sofa suites reduced to €995, and huge discounts off occasional furniture. Make your way to Rossview Interiors, Rossview Business Park, Letterkenny, just off the Polestar roundabout, this Thursday, Friday and Saturday to pick up a real bargain.
Want to work from home without the worry of dropped connections? What about enjoying a film without any freezing? Do your kids want to be online at the same time? National Broadband Ireland is delivering high-speed fibre broadband under the National Broadband Plan to homes, schools and businesses across rural Ireland. To find out when you can get connected, simply contact one of our broadband providers. We have almost 50. Or check your Eircode at nbi.ie. NBI, building a limitless Ireland, supported by the Government of Ireland.
Ready for a change or upgrade? Think Seat. With our wide range of award-winning Seat SUV, including the bold crossover Arona, the family favourite Ateca, or the spacious 7-seater Tarraco. All vehicles come with great offers on finance and PCP options. Book a test drive today by calling DMG Motors on 074 97 21 396 or visit dmgmotors.ie. Choose your new 231 Seat with confidence with a visit to DMG Motors, Clare Road, Donegal Town.
Harkins have been providing customers with quality fireplaces, stoves and electric fires for over 30 years. And now you can experience the elegance of luxurious worktop from Harkins. Their experienced craftsmen can fabricate marble, quartz or granite worktops to your specification. So, if you're planning a new kitchen or bathroom or upgrading your existing one, Harkin Fireplaces can provide a quote for your quartz, marble or granite worktop. Visit their showroom in Ballybogan, Lifford or call 9141109 or visit them online at harkinfireplaces.ie.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at
11:28. The Irish peacekeeper, Private Sean Rooney, who was killed while on duty in Lebanon last December, is to be honoured at the United Nations headquarters in New York at a ceremony in the UN General Assembly Hall. The Irish ambassador to the United Nations, Fergal Maithen, will receive the medal on behalf of the family of Private Rooney. His mum, Natasha, and family say we're extremely proud of Sean, first and foremost, for the young man he was, a very kind and compassionate young man. We're very proud of all he achieved in his short life, and of course, we are so proud that he's receiving the UN medal. I believe he's so deserving of it. Senator Gerard Craughwell joins us on the programme now. Senator, thanks for taking the call.
Delighted. Good morning to you and good morning to your listeners.
Obviously, this is a fitting recognition of Private Rooney.
Absolutely, 100%. The award of an honour like this is a tangible recognition of the sacrifice this young man gave to in the name of peace. And from my perspective, the Taoiseach Minister for Defence should ensure that Sean's family are actually in the UN on the day the award is made, for them to receive it personally. After all, the young man did give his life in the name of peace.
Do we know if that invitation has been extended, Senator?
No, we don't. I'm making inquiries today through the Taoiseach's office, but I would certainly think that it would be right and fitting. I attended the funeral in Dundalk and went on to Donegal for the interment of the young man, and I have rarely been at anything so moving. And to see that young man's mother and the devastation that she felt on the day, it's the least he could do for her.
Okay, well, you might let us know how those inquiries progress. But for now, Senator Gerard Craughwell, thank you very much for joining us on the programme. 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number. On to some comments now. As late of the 50s and 60s, people had nothing, says a listener, and still now there are those that don't. Greg, talking about famine, when the government is doing their best to stop farming, where will the food come from? It will cause hunger and starvation, and at the moment people are feeling it. So about the climate change, that's totally untrue. They believe climate change isn't a thing. But the world's a different place now. That being said, if you can't produce your own stuff, you are always at the beck and call, aren't you, I suppose, of other countries. Greg, I went to China on a secondary school programme. There were a few Irish and a few from other European countries. When it came to dinner, we would have asked the waiter for more potatoes when they ran out. None of us noticed, but the people from other countries did, and it became a running joke. I read into it, and it is a phenomenon in countries who experienced food shortages. Right, okay, on to some other things. Hi, Greg. There are 2 manhole covers that need to be fixed. One over Dromore Road at Bonnagee. There are 4 cones around it, one for every week that it's laying like that. Terrible. And the other in Rafo that's sticking up like a spike. God help whoever drives over it. Thanks. Now, obviously there's a problem recognised in Bonnagee if it's surrounded by cones. We'll see what the story is there. And I'm not familiar with the situation in Rafo, but the caller says the manhole cover you can still call them that, can't you, is sticking up like a spike, they say. Following on from our conversation with Senator Eileen Flynn, people don't realise being a working mum is having 2 full-time jobs. Expectations for the level of housework, etc. remains the same. But what is that down to? Just speaking more generally, like, is that acceptable? 086 60 25,000. Can you repeat the guide dog event, please? I missed the beginning. Thanks. I'm off the top of my head because it's buried in a load of comments. I don't want to give the wrong place. I can do this during an ad break, okay? I'll get it for you. Sorry for all the rattling noise. It's just that it runs only till 12. I have it here. Yes, it's a coffee morning in the Station House Hotel in Letterkenny. It's running until 12 noon. All funds raised for Irish guide dogs. Morning. Why in the past was Leo Varadkar not interested in housing our own citizens? People lying on the streets for years, people on housing lists for years, families struggling for homes. Why did he and the rest of them not get all gung-ho like they are now? Money, that's why. They're getting paid to take in many migrants. It makes me sick. Take what families we can, surely, but we're bursting at the seams, and he's on about taking more. Are there many migrants in Dublin 4, I wonder? Again, I don't want to get involved in that conversation again, but there's enough money, if there is a will, to house migrants. I mean, I don't think homeless Irish people want to go into disused office buildings or to spend the rest of their lives in a hotel. They want proper accommodation that has to be built, and that's not being slowed down because of migrants. It's a lack of will, although the government is saying they're reaching and exceeding targets. Again, you see, what's happening is we and people are focused on migrants and protesting outside places where migrants are going, and you will know from the discussions on this show that it's understood and we talk about it, right? And I'm not taking a position one way or other, but there's no protests outside the door to the politicians saying, hello, excuse me, where are our houses? It's outside accommodation for 30 odd migrants. If you're in government, it's perfect because you can label the people that are protesting in a certain way. You can make yourself look like you're doing all you can for the migrants. But really, you know, people aren't protesting what the issue is here, and this is a lack of housing for all. Although, as I say, I recognise the government says that it is building more houses now than it has for a long time and exceeding targets. But do you get where I'm coming from? All right, okay, we're going to take a break. Our head of sales, Sean Quinn, I think, is going to be joining us very shortly. Stay right where you are.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Every year, we donate millions of euros, hundreds of hours, and thousands of items to good causes. The Charities Regulator keeps a record of every charity in Ireland. So if you want to give to a charitable cause, go on our website and check so you know what you're giving will be put to good use. Click, check, give. Check your giving to a registered charity at checkacharity.ie. The Charities Regulator. Please give confidently.
Why did I choose Ulster? I wanted a university who could give me the biggest possible future, but also the best possible time now. Somewhere I could make friends and have good crack, but also to set me up for the best job possible. I'm planning to take up one of the study abroad options, and then my big plan is to specialise in media law in LA. But for now, NI has one of the lowest student living costs in the UK. So, night markets, here I come.
Learn why over 30,000 students choose Ulster at ulster.ac.uk/go north. Apply now for this September.
The groom goes free. The groom goes free. Yes, you heard it. The Groom's Room. Evolve Clothing, Letterkenny Retail Park. The groom goes free. Call in today. Terms and conditions apply.
I've just had the Eclipse Cinemas experience. Wow, they truly have taken a night at the movies to a whole new level. Amazing recliner chairs, director's lounge VIP rooms, pizza and hot food served to your seat. Have a glass of wine and enjoy the film on the big screen. Try it for yourself at Eclipse Cinemas, Bundoran and Lifford Strabane, where the stars shine brighter. By the way, the pizzas are amazing. You can book your seat anytime at eclipsecinemas.ie.
Join special guest Majella O'Donnell at Divers Hyundai this Friday 26th for Divers Relay for Life Coffee Morning. Everyone's welcome to come along for a cuppa, meet Majella and help raise money for the Irish Cancer Society. That's 10 to 2 this Friday at Divers Hyundai, Letterkenny.
Mick Flavin, 50 years in country music show at the Mount Derrigal Hotel, Letterkenny on Monday the 12th of June with special guests Philomena Begley, Ray Lynham, Declan Ernie, Shuni Crampsey and Patsy Kavanagh. Tickets now on sale from the Mount Derrigal Hotel on 074 9122 700.
Rightio, a bit of self-promotion going on now, and why not? And it's not really actually self-promotion. I shouldn't phrase it like that, because it is the promotion of the amazing service that our business and the business community provide across the region, and we'll talk about where this came from, but it's about recognising that. And there's a massive appetite there amongst the public, as was clear from nominations and votes and what have you, to recognise what our businesses do. And Sean Quinn, as I mentioned, joins us now because we're heading towards the big ceremony on Sunday. And, you know, it was huge. It turned out to be huge. I mean, you might sit there and say, yeah, we always knew it was going to be. I don't know, Sean, you're in sales, so I don't know what you'll say.
I'll tell the truth, honestly.
Yeah, no, but all jokes aside, like, no, I mean, did you think it was going to become what it has become?
No. This actually was an idea about 7-8 months ago where myself and Fionnuala sat down and we looked and we thought, this is an opportunity. And we launched it on the 13th of March and we were absolutely blown away. Couldn't believe the initial reaction we got, but the continuous reaction that it ended up just short of 16,000 nominations. 1,300 businesses, slightly around that figure, were actually nominated in this process.
Wow.
And it went right across the county. There's no little town that wasn't involved in this. Absolutely blew us away. Now, it gave us extra work.
Well, it's a headache, really, isn't it? Because, I mean, that has to be whittled down.
Yeah.
And that's a process that we had external help with, and it was all done incredibly independently as well, and we'll go through some of that in a moment. A big amount of work. Like, I would say, if you said to people, there was 1,300 businesses in Donegal, they might go, really? Do you know what I'm on about? Because it's not a figure you would have ever have calculated in your mind. So for that amount of businesses to be nominated in and of itself is amazing. And every single one of those businesses was nominated because someone who avails of a service or a product or what have you thought the service or the quality was of a standard that they took their time to do it. So I think every nomination there is important, not to mention then those that got the multiple nominations.
Yeah, and you know, it's, I suppose we're going with the times, and it was all online, and there was people that hadn't, you know, we got phone calls, how do I do this? We spoke people through the process of how do you do it, and made it as simple as possible. But yeah, just to get the imagination and the thoughts, and the amount, Greg, of people who actually took time to write things about that business and why they were nominating them. It actually helped the judges big time because they were able to actually put that into part of their process. And it was huge, absolutely huge. And even down to the last couple of days, there were still people nominating and still new businesses coming in that you know, we hadn't seen, and people left it as usual to the last minute. So we were delighted at that part. Absolutely delighted.
So the thing about these awards too was about the inclusivity, and they were guided, the categories to some extent were guided by the nominations, because I mean, how do you cover just the 1,300? So there was headline categories and then subcategories. Now we can't go through them all, right? But we have broken them down into, and I'll mention the judges at the same time.
Yeah.
We broke the headline categories down into retail, and Charlie Boyle is the judge in that area. In health and beauty, we have the services of Emma Murray, stylist. House and home, Noel Cunningham is our judge there. In lifestyle, Sandra Devaney is on board. In terms of motor, we have Michael Brennan. And community and professional services, Deirdre McGlone. I mean, those are some fantastic names and completely independent as well. And they have whittled them down to shortlists in a number of subcategories, and the winners will be announced on Sunday, Sean.
Yeah, and I was so glad we didn't have to do that part.
Yeah,
because
it's been a nightmare.
That was
Fionnuala can't even agree on the collering competition, so I certainly wouldn't let you. I wouldn't let you loose.
We
on
canvass
this one.
when we come in here. We can't.
You can't judge colouring. You're not going to be fit to judge this. But
no,
anyway.
I'm so glad I'm out the loop, because it's the right way to go independently, because they can take their time, they can review, they and they can give what their valued opinion, because that key word is valued, because they are recognised names. And again, we were happy to get them on board. It just adds credibility to the whole thing as well.
Yeah. Now, also, before we talk about what's coming up on Sunday, just want to mention the sponsors as well who got on board with this. PGIM, main sponsor, Healthwise Pharmacy Group, iHeating and Cooling, Donegal Airport, MCM Brands, Hickey, Clark and Langan, and of course our good friends at iMotors have got in behind this, and an important too, and it's good. It's good brand recognition for them as well. Everyone's a winner. So that's really good, especially given the level of interest that was in this. And also, too, before we talk about the night again, it's business customers as well, but our listeners as well embraced this as well, drove huge traffic to our social media and to our website, and bought into it and got involved, and it wouldn't be possible without them, certainly on this scale, Sean.
Oh, they've made it for us, because they engaged with us from day one, and they embraced what we were doing and took time to go online. There was a few people that, as I said, they rang. There's a couple of people actually wrote in as well. So without them, we wouldn't have had the 16,000. There's no two ways about that. But it also recognises the jobs that businesses are doing out there. They're doing something really positive, that people will take that time. And it's great that on the evening, there's be 121 businesses in the room. There can only be a winner in each section, but it's great that they'll be recognised. It's a great networking opportunity as well.
Yeah, and I think the timing is right too, because this is about supporting business, and we're talking in the context this week heading into the awards where sentiment surveys amongst small and medium businesses, which many of these are, where there's more optimism in that sector as well about the future, that maybe we've hit a ceiling in terms of overheads and what have you. So we're heading into this when there is also seemingly in small and medium enterprise an increased positivity going forward. And as I say before, scratch record incoming. These are the businesses that we go to for our sponsorship, that we ask to buy this, that and done, or back our local team, or whatever it might be, that employ our young people, that employ us and our friends and families. And no harm to multinationals or online shopping, but these businesses, many of them are the bread and butter of our community. And again, that makes it extra special for me that we're recognising it in this way. Right, so it's a sellout, folks. There is a big awards ceremony taking place at the Mount Errigal Hotel this Sunday. Things kick off at 6 p.m. with a drinks reception.
Yeah, so it's we'll ask people to come for 6 o'clock, and there's a great opportunity to network with other businesses. As I said, there's people who have never met other people before from all over the county. I think we've covered everywhere in the county. So yeah, 6 o'clock, and then we will try and get them in as quick as possible for dinner at 7 p.m. So sitting down for dinner. It's about 520 people there, so there's a lot of food to go out on tables. And the whole night kicks off really from when you walk in the door. And we're hoping that it's going to be great crack.
High energy, good buzz.
Absolutely.
Dinner at 7. So you've got 2 hours to eat because the awards kick off at 9 p.m. sharp, by the way. So we are going to then go through the various categories, and the winners introduce the guests, the judges, of course, to those in attendance. And I think it's going to be good fun.
It's going to be a great crack.
I hope lots of people have taken Monday off.
I haven't, but I might have been here at 9 o'clock. But
well, I will, because if I'm not, there's no show. So
unlucky there, Greg.
Yeah, you know what? No harm. I'm looking forward to being here on Monday at 9 o'clock.
I think the whole a couple of years ago we couldn't do this. Now we can, and I think the location's perfect. It's a great sized room. It'll be a high energy from when you walk in the door. Great food, and then carried on by the awards actual ceremony, and hopefully there's loads of cheering in the room and people get involved, and I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Absolutely.
And anything afterwards?
Yeah, disco afterwards. Yeah, if you've still got
not showing your age there
energy left. Well, we're going to get a band, but I thought no, we'll do a disco.
All right, good stuff.
Do a disco.
Okay, so you can party into the early hours as well, and it's all at the Mount Errigal Hotel. As I say, it is a sellout at this stage. Over 500 will be in attendance. If you want to be part of it, right, but you can't be there, and you want to see the glitz and the glamour as well, by the way, please make sure to, if you don't already, follow us on our social media, because we've got a brilliant social media here team. team here as well. There'll be some interviews going up, some videos, some pictures and stuff. And we want, because the dress code is sexy. Right,
dress to impress now.
Dress to impress. No, sexy.
Are you doing sexy? Are you?
I'm going to dress up. I'm going to dress up to the nines. So that's it. So,
are you going to give me a hint, or
I'm going to wear a suit?
Okay,
I'm going to wear a suit. Yeah. It's going to be good fun, and as I say, if you can't be in attendance, hopefully there is going to be loads of stuff on.
Absolutely,
as well for people to sort of feel part of it as well and see, as I say, the glitz and glamour. Because
during the evening there will be loads of things happening on social media. We have a full team there. So you're 100% right there, Greg. If you can't be there, it'll feel as if you are there. Just tune into our Highland Radio Facebook page, and you won't miss much.
Yeah, and Insta as well, I'm sure.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Sean, listen, well done to you and your team for pulling this together. Is this the first of an annual thing now, or is the jury out on that?
Oh, absolutely. But ask me again that on Monday, maybe.
Okay,
no, absolutely. If we've got the response this time around, I think we can make this an annual.
Right, back with more after these.
At F&F, there's 25% off all clothing until Wednesday, 31st of May with your Tesco Club Card or app. That's 25% off your new summer dress collection. Now that's worth popping in for. F&F, fashion at Tesco. Products subject to availability. Available in the majority of larger stores.
Summer is here, and so is the hottest sale of the year at Easy Living Furniture. Get ready to transform your home with incredible deals during our sizzling summer sale. With absolutely everything reduced, why not spruce up your living room with a stylish sofa? Create the perfect dining experience with our stunning collection of dining sets, and relax in comfort with our cozy bedroom furniture. The spectacular summer sale is now on at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park.
Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. Milford Retail Park now open. Large range of wall and floor tiles on display and in stock. Over 70 different laminate floors to suit every pocket. Tilers and wood fitters available. New bathware showroom now open. Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. 083 091 0707.
National Heritage Week returns from August 12th to 20th, and this year celebrates living heritage. Organise an event by exploring and sharing the traditions, crafts and skills passed down through generations in your family or community. Visit heritageweek.ie for more. National Heritage Week supported by the Local Authorities Heritage Officer Network and the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage.
Itchy eyes, running nose, wheezy and mean hay fever is back on the attack. As pharmacists, Brennan's have a wide range of allergy remedies to come to your rescue. And we can advise you on how to lessen those hay fever attacks. So come in for a chat and we can talk through your options. In private if you like. You'll be back to enjoying summer in no time. For expert hay fever advice you can trust without the wait, we're always here for you. Just ask at your local Brennan's pharmacy.
Okay, Greg, I gave you a wee preview for the break. Greg, Simply the Best is the most iconic Tina Turner song. It is, but it takes on different guises over the years. For me, what Tina Turner's Simply the Best is back when I used to watch the boxing as a young person with my father and brothers and what have you, and it was... Chris Eubank at that time was the anti-hero, and of course I followed him, and that was his entrance, and the iconic entrance just when that started to become a thing. Another Simply the Best clear winner, that's coming from the team from all the votes. A few people suggesting Proud Mary. It's such a party song, many happy memories. I'm sure you're going to hear Proud Mary before the end of the programme, but I promised at the top of the show, right, but it's been so busy that we're leaving it really late. So what I'm going to do for you, I'll tell you what I'll do actually, firstly, because we're pretty much near the end of the show. I'm going to say goodbye to people watching on social media because of copyright reasons. We can't play music out. So thank you so much for watching. We'll be back with you, of course, online from